Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of fantastic things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer, and I am joined this week, as I always am, by my two buddies who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first, from New York, he's a somewhat happy man because the Knicks split the first two games at home. He is Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
Not happy about the split, but I guess you could call it happy about last night. I barely fucking made it here. I almost needed an ambulance yesterday watching us try to blow a game against the Heat without Jimmy Butler. But thankfully we got it done, and I'm able to participate in this show. So, yeah.
Let's go sports, baby. Woo.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes from here. But we're still alive right now, baby. Still alive right now.
Series tied up. Okay, this is an MMA show right here. But we got two Knicks fans here, and
I hear you.
And a non-fan. Omar's a fan of nothing. Introducing from Florida, the Sunshine State. He is the Nicaraguan nightmare and a fan of no sport but combat sports. Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
I would argue I am a fan of the only
there we go.
sport that matters in combat sports. You guys can have your sports and your balls and your passing and your kicking. I'm about the kick in the face. That's where I'm at. And ironically enough, I don't like fighting in hockey. It's the weirdest fucking thing.
It is actually very weird. They just let them fight. It's like part of the game.
Like they literally hire dudes that can't play hockey so they can fight.
Yeah. They call them enforcers.
It's the craziest. Yeah, enforcers. It's the craziest thing to me. I don't understand it, but there it is.
No other sport lets that shit fly at all. But in hockey, it's just like penalty box for 2 minutes. And
the crazy shit is in baseball, everybody just jumps each other.
Yeah,
I love a good baseball fight because like people don't even know what the fuck's going on, but they'll run from the bleachers and just start fucking people up.
They don't come from the bleachers; they come from the dugout.
The bullpen. The bullpen is what I was saying.
Usually the fans don't join in.
Well, depends on what state you're in.
Yeah.
In
football, you see the fights in games in Mexico, they get fucking crazy.
That's true.
Dude, football is a very dangerous sport to go fucking watch.
Same planet. Yeah, football fights are.
I don't think I would ever go to a football game just because of all the madness I've seen from the fans, like real hardcore fans. Yeah, like they'll murder somebody without thinking twice.
Yeah, they will.
They're wild.
But you're talking about the fans.
Oh, I am. But the fans are kind of the worst because those football stadiums hold like 50,000 people.
Dude, in basketball, if dudes fight, they get suspended for like 10 years.
Dude, fans in basketball talk way too much shit to these players.
This is true.
Like WWE style shit they're talking to these players, and these players are not about it. And I see them all the time just bubbling up. One of them's just ready to smack somebody right in their face.
Did you see the clip of Anthony Rendon on the Angels, switching back to baseball here, from like a month ago?
Where he grabbed the dude,
called him, I forget what he said, a bitch or
called him a bitch.
And Rendon reached right up and grabbed his shirt, and the guy was like stuck, and he was pulling him down, and he was like, "What'd you say? I loved it.
That's good.
They suspended him, of course, but I was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah,
because the guy's like, "Oh, just go with it, man. Just part of the sport."
Yeah. No, that's not part of the sport. That's not part of the sport. Don't be a fucking asshole. He deserves that.
And for me, this is like in every sport. And I think the one sport they really don't do it in too much is hockey. Like, I don't really see a lot of fans talking wild shit at hockey.
Well,
but
it's a good separation.
It kind of is part of it, talking shit. But at the same time, like, if a player calls you out, he has every right to do that too.
Yeah. And there's also a line. There's a line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a line.
If somebody drops a play, right, or a ball goes through your legs, I feel like I, as a fan, have every right to be like, get off your knees, stop blowing the game. Right?
Sure.
But like I'm not gonna look at the dude, scream out, "Hey, you're a bitch." Like that has nothing to do with the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you. Okay, let's get this back on the rails here.
Oh, was this an MMA podcast? My bad.
Yeah, man. I'm a little bit more in better spirits this week as opposed to last week. My son is now 3 weeks old today, and
Nice.
he's given us a few stretches at night of sleep. And big shout out to my wife for letting me do the show with our son being as young as he is still, but also to letting me, with a 2-week-old, go and do a ring announcing gig for Anthony Pettis this past weekend. I did APFC 4
Nice.
Night of
Nice.
Champions.
I didn't even know
It
you
was
did that.
no, that was 2 weekends ago.
Oh yeah.
My bad. I already
Yeah.
talked about this, didn't I?
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
This is called New Dad Brain.
Yeah.
Don't cut it out. Just leave it in. Fuck it.
Uh,
Okay. Let's talk about the show we're going to do.
let's
Do it.
We have a lot of combat happening this weekend, and I'm excited about it, as I'm
Amen.
sure are you too. We're going to start off this week recapping the fights from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night, Song versus Simone. We're going to talk about the main event with Yadong Song taking on Ricky Simone. We're going to throw a bunch of these fights into our lightning round, which I love. We're going to find out who rose and fell in Mark's very own rankings system that we call the Priaulx Rankings. Then we're going to recap fights from BKFC from this past weekend because it involved basically an entire roster of MMA stars. We're going to go inside the MMA Sphere with Omar, find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage in the headlines and current events of this crazy sport. Then we're going to look ahead to this coming weekend, chock full of combat sports action, MMA action with Rizin, One Championship, and a UFC pay-per-view all in one weekend. A real delight for MMA fans and MMA purists. So before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, let us first thank our audience. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, thank you so much. Do us a favor, if you haven't done so yet, if you've been liking what you've been watching, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon so that you catch all of our videos and clips when they come out. Drop a comment below if you like any of our takes. If you don't like any of our takes, let us know down below. Keep it classy. We love that thoughtful back and forth. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, find us on social media. You can find us in all the places at @&new_MMA show. And with that being said, let us get into this. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Yadong Song, who this past weekend at UFC Fight Night, Song versus Simone, at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, defeated Ricky Simone in a bantamweight clash by TKO in round number 5, the official time 1:10 of round 5. Mark, start us off here. Give us your take of this back and forth battle of bantamweights between Song and Simone, with Song being victorious.
What a huge performance for Song Yadong, or Yadong Song, however we're saying it these days. From jump in this fight, I felt like he was like a robot. Like he just came out, taking little steps forward, hands up, cocked, waiting to throw, and didn't consider moving his feet for a single thing that Simone did. Like he didn't bite on a single feint. Anything he blocked was just his hands and his arms. He never stepped off one time. He easily evaded a takedown. Like he didn't bite on anything. And he may not even have won round 1, but from jump, I think Simone could see that his usual kind of activity that keeps guys on their toes, or kind of knocks them off their toes in a way, was not relevant to Song. And then round 2, Simone gets rocked by a clash of heads, but he pushes through it, and he actually gets a takedown, and you're like, all right, he's on top now. Here we go. Let's see what happens. And Song is up immediately. And I feel like that's when it kind of really started going downhill for Simone, because already it was like he was having trouble getting Song to do anything he wanted him to do. Then there he's like, shit, I'm rocked, but like, all right, I'm on top. And then he's like, oh, fuck, I'm right back. And he's walking at me again, and I still can't figure out how to make him stop walking at me. And I feel like he just kind of got discouraged at that point. Song started landing more. He was opening up. He got his timing down more. And we don't think about this enough, but sometimes I feel like fights just come down to something as simple as which guy will have to fight the fight going backwards, and can he do that? and Simone had to, and he isn't used to doing it, and he couldn't make his game work as a result of it. And eventually Song just reaped the rewards for his efforts. He landed a huge left at the end of round 4 that fucking froze Simone. I think he was probably done if it wasn't for the bell in that round, and it didn't matter because he comes out round 5, lands another left, almost the same exact shot, puts Simone down for the stoppage, and a monster win for Song Yadong.
Omar, what was your take of the finish and the fight overall and performance overall from Yadong Song?
I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I'm pretty sure Song Yadong knocked him down 4 times. I feel like it was once a round going from the second round through the remainder of that fight. Watching the fight, and listening to Mark's take, I don't want to take anything away from Song Yadong because it probably had a lot to do with the way he approached the fight and the way he fought that fight. But Ricky Simone did not fight the way I've seen Ricky Simone fight. And I wonder if it was more than just Song Yadong, if there were other outside factors at play that maybe we don't know about, maybe we'll never know about. But he didn't look the same. Either way, his inability to adjust in that fight was still something that now plays into him and his, our picks. I feel like going forward, I think that's something that's going to play value going forward because we've seen, like Mark said, once he had to move backwards, he didn't really seem to have an answer, whether that would have been try to push forward even more or whatever his response was. The one that he chose was the wrong one. And it cost him a good portion of that fight. And I'm pretty sure those left hands that were landing and knocking him down from time to time, especially as the fight goes on, those knockdowns don't get easier to get up from. And I think by the end of it, man, I think Song Yadong just had put in so much work by the beginning of that 5th round that Ricky Simone, this is probably the first time that we've really seen Ricky Simone really lose a fight. You know what I mean? Like the what was I going to say? The Merab one, very contentious, very close. A lot of people want to go back and forth about whether he finished the fight, whether it was a decision, like whatever. This one, I feel like no one can really say other than Song did work and Ricky Simone took a big L.
Mark, with this win, Song Yadong now emphatically back in the win column after getting stopped himself by Corey Sandhagen back in September. He turns the rising Ricky Simone away. What do you do with him next if you are the matchmaker for the UFC?
I don't know, but I ate popcorn and it's all up in my teeth. I'm not happy about it.
Dude, I love popcorn.
Same.
So you said for Simone, right?
Let's do his Song first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Song. I thought you said Simone. I said this one back when Shido lost his last fight. I'm going to stick to it now. I said then that I think it would have been the perfect time to do a Song rematch if he was the winner of this fight, or Simone if he ended up winning. But I'm still with it. The first fight was very controversial between the two of them. Both of them have greatly elevated their stock and their overall game since then. I think Song has earned a shot to kind of move up the ranks off of a performance like that. He even suggested it that he was down to run it back with Shido, so let's run it back. Let's settle it in a fight night main event or part of a pay-per-view main card or something like that.
Okay, Omar, any other ideas for Yadong Song?
I'd be down for that. I'd be down to see Cheeto win. I'm down for that. You already know, baby.
Very good.
So casual. Yeah, I'd see Cheeto win, yeah.
Okay. With this loss snaps a 5-fight win streak for Ricky Simone. Omar, what do you see next for him at bantamweight?
I think realistically you can't really move him down all too much. I think he might have to get moved down maybe just a spot or two just based on the performance. And I feel like the dominance that was the performance from Song Yadong. But Song Yadong was already on top of him. It was really Simone's opportunity to kind of jump and rise up a little bit from this win, but that doesn't happen. So where do you go with him? Maybe does this motherfucker have a fight? My man Yanez? I feel like we just booked him for something, didn't we?
He doesn't have a fight, but we were saying last week that he should fight Munoz.
Right. Maybe we give him Ricky Simone.
Not bad either.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, what do you think? What's next for Simone?
I'm in a similar boat. I don't want to move Simone. I mean, his rank isn't going to change much, but I mean, even in who his type of opponent is, I don't want to move him down too much. He really had a great run to this point, and he seemingly just had an off night. I'd like to see him fight another ranked fighter. So I'm going to say, how about Jonathan Martinez? Let those two duke it out and see who really should be ranked.
Like it.
Definitely down for that.
Okay, let's
Honestly,
move on.
Dude, if Umar Nurmagomedov didn't deserve a little bit higher than Ricky Simone stylistically, that's a fucking banger right there. That's an absolute banger of a fight.
Actually, that's who I said Munoz should fight. So who the fuck did I match Inez with? I can't even remember now. Because I said Munoz should fight Umar. Yeah, I don't know.
These picks go all over the place sometimes.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Okay. Let us move on now. Congrats to Song Yadong.
Oh, Gutierrez is who I said Inez should fight. The loser. That's where I confused myself. Anyway, sorry.
By the way, this is how mixed martial arts just makes me a more cultured person. It's such a global sport. It just like re-emphasizes that, like, yes, in many Asian cultures, the surname or the family name goes first. Song is what we would consider his last name, but is his surname.
The problem is that as Americans, we keep fucking changing the order. Just use the order that they give us, and we understand that this is the surname, the family name, and this is the given. But when they keep changing it, then I don't know what the fuck is what.
Like
anymore.
His name is Song Yadong. Just because Song is the family name doesn't mean we need to call him Yadong Song. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't at all.
But for me, okay, that's interesting. For me, I prefer to go with Yadong Song because if it's Song Yadong, then I start unconsciously treating Yadong as his last name, and then I also have a 12-year-old mind, so I can't. I want to avoid saying things like "I love Yadong." I just have to avoid it. You know, Yadong is so powerful. I just can't say it. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
It's true,
it's a tough example.
Okay. Okay. Later on tonight, we're going to talk about Yan Xiaonan or Xiaonan Yan. Yan is the surname.
Yep.
Did I ever share with you guys that stat about surnames in the U.S. versus surnames in China?
Yeah, how there's like a zillion more.
Yes. That must have been at some point, like a year ago.
You did.
For anybody who's joining us more as a new listener, it's this fact I once knew. It's something like in the United States, there are like over 25,000 unique last names or surnames. In China, which is like, 4 times the size of our country, there's like 250 unique surnames. It's stupid.
Their alphabet, too, is also like fucking 5 times larger than ours, too. So
how funny.
There's a lot more things to choose from and put together there.
Okay, let's move on. Co-main event for this UFC Fight Night in the middleweight division, Caio Borralho defeated Michal Oleksiejczuk by submission via rear naked choke. The official time coming 2:49 of round number 2. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take of Caio, just still shining and still undefeated in the UFC.
I feel like I got this one on the nose. I feel like I said second round submission for Caio.
I think you did.
I was happy to see that. It's one of those moments where you see him on the ground in the second round. I'm like, oh shit, I think I got the pick. And it worked out, man. I thought the first round was kind of competitive, and Caio kind of had me a little like concerned for a minute. I was like, this is not going as one way as I thought it was going to go. But once we got to the second round, Caio implemented his ground game and was able to keep Oleksiejczuk on the ground and work for a rear naked choke, and it was great.
Yeah, man. Mark, let's bring you in here. What was your reaction to Borralho getting it done and looking impressive yet again?
Dude, Oleksiejczuk came out throwing them hands. Like, I love his hands. I really do. He changes up the timing so much. He, like, switches speeds. He throws them from, like, half-contracted spots. Like, his shot will be out, and he'll bring his hand only back, like, this far, and then he fires it again. Like, he does a lot of crafty shit. He's just a tricky guy with his boxing. And he was tricky early for Borralho. He was landing, he was half landing, I would say, on like a lot of big shots. Were kind of touching Borralho. He was ripping the body. but Caio was eating him, and he was moving well. He at the same time he couldn't take Michal down for most of that round until very late. He was kicking the leg, but like it was a difficult first round for him. And then in the end, it just flipped into being what we thought, which is that Caio was comfortable enough on the feet to survive what was coming at him and to make the grappling advantage come into play. And he did. He shot a beautiful double in round 2 that ultimately led to him ending up in mount. Landed a huge elbow immediately, which I feel like is when everything changed. Michal kind of stopped defending nearly as well. He tied up his right wrist, moved to the back, found the choke. It was academic at that point, and really everything you could ask from Borralho at this point to show how he is progressing here through the ranks.
Yeah, man. So good. This guy is excellent at middleweight. Omar, Borralho's win streak continues. He is now... Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said fuck. I thought there was technical difficulties.
No, I'm good.
Borralho's win streak continues now 11-0. Now 11 in a row as a pro and 4-0 in the UFC. He's cruising at middleweight right now. What do you see as next for him at 185 pounds?
I want to give him somebody above. And I think there's a fight that just got announced, if I'm not mistaken, that I feel like the loser would probably be worth fighting. I feel like Brendan Allen just got a goddamn fight, didn't he?
Yeah, he just got Bruno Silva as his new booking since Hermanson fell out.
Maybe the loser of that Brendan Allen-Bruno Silva fight might be worth looking into.
I hate that that's who Brendan Allen got, man. I was so pumped to see him have a chance to break through against Jack, and now he gets fucking Bruno Silva. Yeah, he asked for Derek Brunson after the fight. I kind of doubt that Derek Brunson takes that fight at this point, if he even is still fighting. Though I'm not opposed to it, but if not that, maybe a little more realistic is we do a Grappler's Delight of Caio and Andre Muniz. See who comes out on top there.
Oh, my God.
Maybe Borralho is the real deal that Muniz we thought was and seemingly is not these days.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with the loser here. Michal Oleksiejczuk, now 18-6 as a pro. Back in the loss column after back-to-back wins. Now 6-4 with one no contest in the UFC. Mark, what do you see as next for Oleksiejczuk at 185 pounds?
He shows signs, man. He's a fun fighter. He's just not complete enough. But I'm going to throw him a striker after having to fight the grappler that is Borralho. I will say another man that Borralho beat in Armin Petrosian. I think those two would make for a fun test for each other.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Omar, any other bright ideas?
I'm not sure where Oleksiejczuk lands in the rankings, so I'm not sure if it would be worth the squeeze, but I would love to see the winner of Gregory Rodriguez versus Dennis Tululin pick up that fight.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
Okay. All right. Let us now throw the rest of these fights from UFC Fight Night, Song versus Simone, into our Lightning Round. So if you're just joining us
the hands dialed up
for the first time, our Lightning Round is our not a game show where I ask Mark and Omar to give me their quickest, most lightning takes of these fight recaps. So here we go.
I need this fucking card up. Hold on a second. Normally we have a document, a shared document that we work from.
Sorry.
Unfortunately, life got in the way, and we do not have a shared document. So I need
Sorry.
It's okay. Some people
up here.
Some people have kids, Omar.
I understand. I take naps. I get it.
Just rub it in, man. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Throw it to me first. I'll get it.
Okay, middleweight division. Rodolfo Vieira defeats Cody Brundage by submission via arm triangle choke in the second round. Mark, take first.
I don't know where Cody Brundage got that explosive striking game from, but he was showing it off early. But props to Vieira for surviving because he was in some trouble. And then round 2, Cody jumps guillotine. It's Rodolfo Vieira. You can't jump guillotine against Rodolfo Vieira. I mean, it took him about 30 seconds of being on the ground to get on top and then strangle Cody Brundage. So not the greatest decision, but a really powerful arm triangle from Vieira, and nicely done by him.
Omar.
Cody's going to be kicking himself for a minute because he was winning that fight. I mean, he knocked the shit out of Vieira with one of those punches in that first round, man. It opened him up, put him on the floor. I mean, I think he was feeling himself a little too much. I think he thought he could do whatever he wanted with Vieira by the time we got to round 2, and he got reminded that he cannot. So hopefully that's a learning moment for him, and he doesn't make such reckless decisions going forward, because that fight was his.
Okay, featherweights. The UFC newcomer Fernando Padilla defeated Juicy Julian Erosa by TKO in the very first round. My man Erosa. God damn, I felt so bad. Omar, go first.
So here's the problem I have with this, and I might go off a little bit, okay? Because Mark already fucking knows.
Lightning round.
Maybe I'll smite somebody with some lightning. This was the most ridiculous stoppage I've seen in quite some time.
Really?
I think Mark and I were
that bad.
It was horrible, Mike.
Oh, I'm not on that page. I'm not.
No, this dude wasn't even on the floor. Mark, you were just talking about how you wanted somebody to like fucking borderline die the other day, that he wasn't out all the way, that he got right back up.
He was more with it than Erosa was.
No, lies and deception. Okay. Juicy J was up. He was up. He didn't even go down. He dropped a little bit. He was still under his feet. He got up and he was still walking around. That was the worst fucking decision to stop a fight I have seen in quite some time.
It wasn't good. Don't get me wrong.
It was terrible. It was awful. It was the fucking worst. It was clear as day that man was not out. I thought it was crazy early. He didn't even hit the floor. His ass never hit the floor. He was never limp. He went down and came right back up.
He was pretty rocked, dude. He was fucked up.
I didn't say he was rocked. 100%. He was getting fucked up. I mean, he got tagged with like 8 fucking punches straight. And the last one that he got hit was a monster punch. But he got like his like body went down and he came back up. He never hit the floor. He was never fucking completely out or anything like that. I thought it was terrible.
Okay.
Terrible.
Okay. Mark. Do you want to talk about anything else or just okay, Mark, go.
It wasn't great. He got caught really bad twice. I get it. He's probably not happy. As you said, he was still up. He was moving around. But man, he got caught with 2 bad ones, and they both looked like they turned him off for like one Mississippi.
Yes.
And when a ref sees you turn off a second time, I get why he jumps in with the quick trigger. I get it. I didn't love it. I get it. To give Padilla some props, he did look like he had really accurate, clean punches with some length behind them. Oh, yeah. So he'll be intriguing to watch. He did look like he was pretty skinny, so we'll see how it goes once he's in there with a grappler. That could be interesting, but a big-time debut.
Big-time debut. All right.
I will add that the length of Padilla really fucked with Erosa. I don't think Erosa's ever had to fight somebody who's basically his size.
Right. The great point.
He couldn't bully him around. He couldn't use his length. He looked really uncomfortable in there. And Padilla was just letting him go, man. Padilla was ready to throw down no matter what. It was rough. I mean, it was rough for Erosa. Don't get me wrong. The finish aside, Erosa was getting lit up. I mean, he was full Christmas tree in that fight.
Yes. And to be fair to you, to your point, it was one of those kind of moments in a fight where guys getting rocked, but he's like the moment the ref like committed to stepping in is when Erosa was kind of coming to, and he was like, "No," and he immediately protested. So
I feel like this is where we need Herb Dean, where we have these controversial. Did Herb Dean actually step in or not? This is what we needed. I needed Herb Dean to look like he was going to step in, but then actually didn't when he saw Rosa was still standing up. You know what I mean? He looks like he's about to wave it off, and then he's like, no, never mind, and he backs off and he lets him keep fighting. That's what I needed. Instead, I got fucking Chris Tognoni talking about this is the end of the fight. Fucking Chris.
Yeah, man. Okay, let's move on. Lightning. Heavyweight division. Marcos Rogerio de Lima defeats Waldo Cortez Acosta by unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. Mark, go first. Actually, Mark, keep chewing. Omar, go first.
I started eating a protein bar. I'm so fucking hungry. Okay. I realized I had a bar in my desk.
Whoops.
R.I.P. the leg of Cortez Acosta. I mean, I think he spent 3 rounds getting smashed in the leg. Rogerio de Lima had to weather some attacks, but the reality is just I think it really kicked off in the 3rd round once I think Cortez Acosta really knew that he was down, he was losing that fight, he was compromised for sure. Good poker face though. I mean, there were times where he was getting hit where you could see it on his face, but he was still using that front leg. I feel like most people would have been gingerly using that front leg, but he was putting weight on it. But it didn't really matter, man. De Lima tore him up for majority of that fight. Like I said, I think the 3rd round, if I remember it right, was probably the most sketchy round for Rogerio de Lima. But the damage was done. It was a good showing for Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
Mark.
Yeah, he came out and just started ripping up that left calf from jump, and it put Cortez Acosta on the defensive. It opened up takedowns, and we know de Lima's heavy on top. He was racking up some points there, and just didn't really get any better as the fight went on. He kind of started looking for like the perfect big shot because he was trying to end the fight because he didn't want to keep getting his calf ripped up, so he wasn't really throwing in combos. He wasn't fighting the way he normally fights, and it just let de Lima do more of the same. And then in round 3, I kind of thought Cortez Acosta was going to go for it, knowing he needed to finish, and he still didn't really. He did a little better, but like he didn't really push it. So I don't know. I wasn't in love with his performance, but a good win for de Lima.
Okay, welterweights and the opening bout of the main card for this UFC Fight Night. Trey Waters defeated Joshua Quinlan by unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. Mark, sticking with you. Take it first.
Josh Quinlan is a man who is known for throwing bombs, and it was completely irrelevant because he couldn't even enter the range of Trey Waters without being clipped. And Waters was just standing there looking intimidating as fuck, like a big, long dude, hands down, almost like sticking his face out, daring Quinlan to step into his range. And every time he did, he just got popped. I mean, it was jabs in his face all night, counters all night when Quinlan came in. Really impressive, short notice, like a week notice, if I remember right, debut for Waters against a dangerous dude in Quinlan.
Omar.
Yeah, dude, Quinlan's a dog, man. Quinlan ate a ton of shots in that fight. I think the one criticism I have of Trey Waters' game, and maybe it was a specific plan for Quinlan, but considering the time frame, I doubt it. I'm pretty sure this might be the way that he fights. But waiting for that counter shot and not really trying to make those in-between moments, forcing those in-between moments, I think is not going to work out for him once we start getting into the higher echelon of the welterweight division. Guys are not going to, especially the higher guys in the weight class, are not going to play his game. And he does a lot of waiting. He misses quite a bit of those counter shots, but the ones that he lands, man, are nasty, and they land right on the button, and they have weight behind them, and it messed Quinlan up quite a bit. So hopefully there's some evolution to Trey Waters' game, but the foundation that he has right now is definitely one that I want to keep watching.
Okay, the featured bout on the prelims for this UFC Fight Night. In the heavyweight division, Martin Buday defeats Jake Collier by unanimous decision, 29-28 across the board. Omar, take it first.
Yeah, dude, this was a good fight. These guys are not the most technical guys, and there was a lot of brawling and a lot of that big man swinging. Martin Buday at the end of the day got the best of Jake Collier. I can't remember what round Jake Collier won. I don't really remember him winning any rounds personally. Did he win the first round?
Yeah. I mean, I thought so.
So did the judges.
But by the end of the fight, you just knew Martin Buday won. I think everybody was kind of on the same page, Jake Collier included. So it was a good win for Martin Buday.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I thought Collier came out strong. He pushed the pace in round 1, and I thought he was able to take that round. But Buday, I forget how you even say it, he adjusted, landed some nice knees in round 2, definitely took that round. And then it was all there to play for in round 3, and the fight kind of reset after that eye poke. It was still wide open, and Collier just kind of slips. He goes in for a takedown that gets sort of stuffed, and Collier loses balance, and Buday's on top, and that was all he needed, and he just rides it out, locks up the W.
Okay, flyweights. Cody Durden defeats Charles Johnson by unanimous decision, 30-27, all 3 judges. Mark, go.
Cody Durden's got to start getting some credit, man. He is a relentless, sticky grappler, and he's generally at a disadvantage on the feet. But he's just one of these wrestlers who is so naturally a dog that he can deal with it, like almost Clay Guida-esque, like the way that he used to succeed. And as slick as Johnson was looking at times, it didn't matter because he couldn't keep Durden off him. And both guys were tired of shit by the end of this. It was really grappling heavy, but the wrestling was just too much. So a nice win for Durden.
Omar.
Honestly, man, the cardio from Charles Johnson was pretty damn impressive, especially considering how much he had to work to try to stay off the ground. When it didn't work, he was still getting controlled from the ground. Cody Durden was putting in a lot of effort, and I wasn't necessarily surprised to see how tired he was by the end of the fight. But Charles Johnson did not look as tired as I thought he should, considering all the shit that he went through for 3 rounds. When he got back up and he got back on his feet, the man was like on his bike, and there was like no moment where he was like, fuck, let me take like a deep breath and like take a minute. No, he got back up and he just kept going forward. Cody Durden had to work, man. He had to work to keep getting him back down on the ground and to keep Charles Johnson from doing shit. I didn't know Cody Durden was an All-American wrestler, but I mean, it shows.
Okay, moving on. At a catch weight of 140 pounds, Irina Alexieva defeats Stephanie Egger by submission via knee bar. The official time 2:11 of round number 1. Omar, what's up?
Yeah, this fight left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, if we're being completely honest. From a performance standpoint, it was a great performance. You know, it didn't last very long. Irina is a very aggressive fighter. She definitely moved forward, was definitely trying to scrap, was not trying to shy away from any kind of fight, and becomes a fighter now. I think it's like the 4th knee bar in women's UFC history that she was able to complete. They're calling her the Russian Ronda?
Yeah, Russian Ronda.
I hate that nickname.
She said it was because people used to think she looked like her when she had long hair, that it's not anything about her game.
Still hate it. But the thing that really, I think, annoyed the shit out of me was, I think, her celebration and
I was going to say the same.
It's, and I'm not one for people not celebrating, but she missed weight by like 4 pounds. Like, how are you in there talking this much wild shit, doing the Billy walk and all kinds of stuff in there? Like, this woman is not giving away 30% of her person. Like, she didn't walk in there heavy as balls compared to her opponent. I thought a little bit of humility, considering the circumstances, might have been warranted, but I don't know. She went full asshole on there, so I didn't care for that.
Mark?
You were taking that a different route than me. I was just going to make fun of her for doing every celebration there is in the corniest way possible in like a 20-second span. Like, it was like she was like, what can I do next? What can I do next? Like, she was just running through a list of them. So, yeah, that was awkward, but a nice debut win for her. She, not a lot to break down here. The knee bar happened pretty early, but it was a beautiful roll. She was so deep on the leg immediately, and Egger tapped early. She knew she was stuck. So, good win. Obviously missed the weight. You would hope she'll get it in order for the next fight, but good win.
Yeah. Okay, at a catch weight also at 140 pounds on the men's side, Marcus McGee defeats Journey Newsom by submission via rear naked choke in the 2nd round. Mark, sticking with you, go.
I loved McGee's pressure. I was really impressed that he was able to pressure with his striking that way, even against a guy who he knew wanted the takedown. But he looked really, really comfortable in there for a short notice UFC debut. And I've honestly never been too sold on Newsom, and he was continually getting caught by straight lefts in this fight. It was another one that dropped him in the end. So not sure how much longer he's got in the UFC, but McGee looked really good. He snatched up that choke real quick to finish it, and a fun debut for him.
Omar?
Yeah, I definitely thought McGee was the older man of the two, but he is not.
He's got one of those faces.
He does. He does indeed.
Do you know what's funny? Tell me if you agree with this. I heard them say, so initially I was thinking, wow, he has an old face, because I saw his age, and I was like, wow, he looks older. Then I heard them say he used to be a pro skateboarder, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then in my head, I was like, why am I thinking that? But I often feel like skateboarders look older than they should. Do you feel like that?
And I actually feel the opposite. I feel like
really?
These skateboarders look fucking younger. They'll
I
be
feel like
40
they have
years
old
old
faces often. Like, I don't know, if it's something about falling a lot.
I feel like Tony Hawk finally has an old face, but he like took forever to fucking age that man.
Yeah, maybe I'm off. I don't know.
Not like this, bro. This is, I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but this is hardcore right here. 32, this is hardcore.
Yeah.
Especially considering Journey Newsom is fucking 34. The man has a baby face.
Yeah.
It's real crazy. Anyway, back to the fight. Fantastic performance from McGee, especially on short notice. What was this, like 5 days, 3 days? Something ridiculous.
Something like that, yeah.
Brian Boom Kelleher was the one who was supposed to step in for this fight. We actually don't really know what happened to Boom Kelleher. There's not really been any specifics on exactly what happened, why they pulled him, and where he's at going forward. But it does seem like he's going to be taking a hiatus to figure out whatever medical issue is plaguing him. So hopefully, hopefully Boom Kelleher is good.
We have one more, guys. Let's finish strong here. Catch weight of 137.5. Jamie Lynn Horth defeats Haley Cohen by UD. Mark, why don't you step in and talk?
Horth came out and looked good early. Worked the kick game, kind of nullified Cowan in round 1. But Cowan didn't stop coming. And in round 2, she changed the fight. She got the grappling going a bit. She was tough in there. And round 3 was close. I wouldn't have really hated it going either way. I didn't rewatch it. But live, I was like, oh, shit, this could go to either girl here. Cowan was kind of pushing it more, kind of had the clinches, the takedowns. But Horth was probably landing the more significant shots. So tough one to call, but Horth gets it done.
Omar, take us home.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add is this is one of those fights where I think by the third round, they both knew that they had one apiece. I don't think there was any question. And they went out there and both of them tried to win that third round as hard as they could. And you got to love shit like that. I really love the sense of urgency, especially when it comes from both sides. I had it for Horth for the third round, but just like Mark, if you told me that you had Cowan winning that fight, I wasn't going to argue with you.
All right, boys, we did it. That does it for UFC Fight Night, Song versus Simone. Now let's find out who rose and fell in Mark's own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings. Mark?
So I'll tell you real quick because I thought I had read it, so I had to look it up again just to remind myself. But it's a neck issue for Kelleher, or rather multiple neck issues. He has like some herniated discs, nerve compressions, things like that I guess he's been dealing with for a while, and they are getting worse, and then they really flared up. So he kind of made it sound like he may have to make some decisions, and he may not be fighting for a while. So we will see. But, good luck to him with his health. As for the Priaulx Rankings, not a ton to report this week. We only have 3 risers and no fallers, and all 3 risers are just debutantes who have kind of busted into the ranks, but all in fairly noteworthy fashion, so I'll let you know who they are. First one is Irina Alexieva. Obviously was not ranked, making her debut. She jumps right into my number 14 slot at women's bantamweight by virtue of beating Stephanie Egger, who's been pretty solid. So that's a nice way to debut there. I don't know if the UFC ranked her. I'm actually curious of that now before I move on. My guess is not, but now let's see. Women's bantamweight. No, they did not. But they have Norman Dumont ranked there, which makes 0 sense. So, okay. Anyway, the next one was Trey Waters, another guy who was not ranked, making his debut. Jumps into my welterweight rankings at number 49 on the back of beating Josh Quinlan. And then the last one is Fernando Padilla, another debutant. He jumps into the featherweight rankings all the way up at number 25 after taking out Julian Erosa, who obviously has been pretty solid as of late. So we'll see how legitimate that ranking is, but got to put him there now for knocking out Erosa. Knocking out Erosa.
There you go.
How you going to do that to my mans?
And
how you going to do that to my mans?
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, with that being said, let us now turn our attention to this past weekend's BKFC Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship,
Yes,
which featured a star-studded cast of former UFC stars, including a couple of former UFC champions. Let us start with, which was the main event?
Perry.
Let's start with the main event. Platinum Mike Perry took on former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold and knocked him out. Knocked out a couple of his teeth in the process. Omar, why don't you start us off? Give us your take of how this fight played out and the boxing skills that both these men put on display.
Before I jump into it, I just want to quickly shout out Chris Camozzi and Ben Rothwell. We're not going to dive into them, but they are savages. The Ben Rothwell specifically, BKFC might be the thing for him, man, because that man killed somebody in his first fight, and in this fight he showed that he can go 3 rounds and beat on a man with like half an eye open. So this is I think the thing for Ben Rothwell, and I'm glad he's finding success where he may not have found it in the UFC. But that said, both of them had great fights. Luke Rockhold and Mike Perry was, for me, exactly what I expected, with the exception of the retirement, basically, from Luke Rockhold in the middle of that fight. And I think we talked about this last week, man. Mike Perry is fucking dog. Like, this BKFC is not boxing. It's just not. There are no gloves. The approach is different. The results are different. The damage you take to your body with the strikes that you're throwing is different. And so your strikes kind of need to be economical. They need to be in the right spot because you're going to bust your hands up. It is almost a guarantee that you're going to bust your hands up and not necessarily break them, but like you've seen a lot of these hands afterwards. They're swollen. They're different colors. Like people can't close them. I mean, it gets crazy in there. Ben Rothwell even talked about how his hands, you know, he's a big dude. The dude is 285. Big dude. Hands fucked up. Completely messed up now after 3 rounds. Perry had to get stitches in his knuckle because they went through Rockhold's teeth. So that's gross. And Rockhold, man, I didn't think this was for Rockhold at all. And I don't mean this in any kind of like messed up or disrespectful way. Rockhold is a pretty boy. And I hope he doesn't take that the wrong way. Like, he's a pretty boy, man. Like Mike Perry's not going to probably be on the cover of GQ or like selling fucking cologne for Ralph Lauren or anything like that. But that's the moneymaker for Rockhold, is this shit right here, is the face. And this man looked like after that fight, he'd been doing meth for the last 20 years. Like his face was busted up, and not just the teeth, but the eyes. Like, it's a different game, man. And Perry knows how to play it, and Perry does not care to get hit. And in that sport, that is an attribute that is going to take you really, really far.
Yeah.
Fantastic performance from Perry. Really capitalized the night by getting McGregor in the ring. The man knows what he's doing, and he's so smart when it comes to the marketing. And I don't think he would have ever gotten this kind of platform in the UFC. And even in the UFC, he was a character. But this, he was bred for it. He was bred for this.
Mark, let's bring you in. Give us your take of the performance of Mike Perry and the performance of Luke Rockhold as well, and the spectacle of the whole thing.
Yeah, Mike Perry's home, man. I mean, Omar mostly said it, but like, Mike Perry is bare knuckle boxing. Like, he is almost who you would create to play this role. I mean, maybe you'd create someone with a bit more technique, but like, he's nearly there. He's a tough out. So we'll see who can beat him over there. He's a free agent now, so I'm actually curious what will happen. I know he's been pretty happy there. They've loved him, so my guess is he's going to continue over there, but we'll see. But as for this fight, you know, Mike Perry gonna Mike Perry. He gives 0 fucks. He moves in, winging hooks with both hands at times, like nothing protecting his face. And Luke had some counters. You know, it's not as if he wasn't fighting, but he never looked like he wanted to be there to me. He just looked uncomfortable throughout. He looked like he wished Perry would get off him. And Perry was not going to oblige. And he landed a big one to the teeth of Luke. It fucked his mouth up, you know, something awful, as we've seen since in the pictures. And I guess fairly, Luke said, I don't need more of that happening to my mouth. I can't even bite this mouthpiece down right now to hold it in here, and I'm not trying to lose more teeth. So that'll be that. So it was a bit anticlimactic. I'm not totally shocked that it kind of went that type of route because, as I said, it just feels like one guy belongs there, one guy does not. And then, freaking props to Mike Perry for asking for a face-off with Conor. Conor obliges, walks in the ring. He's got a BKFC belt on his shoulder, gets on the mic, complimenting the show that they put on. I mean, these guys would have paid an ungodly sum of money for Conor to do that, and they got it for free. So a huge night for BKFC in terms of the promotion and buzz generated by that event.
Dude, the validation that Conor McGregor, who, Mike Perry was talking about this with Ariel, and he's absolutely right. He's like, Conor McGregor is one of those guys that your mom fucking knows who Conor McGregor is, right? Like, everybody knows. If you don't know combat sports, chances are you still know who Conor McGregor is at this point.
He's transcendent, man. He really is.
The amount of validation they get from somebody like Conor McGregor being a fan of the sport. Forget him physically being there, but being a fan of the sport, and even considering to go into that ring and obliging. And I have to imagine that he would know, whether it was before or after, that Dana White was probably not going to care for that move. He still did it anyway. You know what I mean? And he had fun with it, and he still let it be Mike Perry's night, which I thought was great. He didn't take the whole thing over. He didn't go full, raging Conor. I thought it was happy to see that. Beautiful, man. Like I said, Mike Perry there's an elegance to what Mike Perry does, and a lot of people might think that dude is dumb because of where he came from and this, that, and the other. And the man might not be able to break down chemical equations, but this dude knows his business, knows what he's doing, and he does, bro. It's fucking great to watch. I was a Mike Perry fan when he's in the UFC, but now,
me too.
This is a different level. This shit is just so much fun. I love every minute of it.
Mike Perry has
I've loved
always
Mike Perry,
been
man. He's
watch.
awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The
and
fact
he's home
that
now.
Conor McGregor was even there, the fact that he was even there, it just goes to show you how much BKFC's growing, man. They're growing.
And like Mark said, no one paid him. No one told him to go there. As the story goes, somebody was like, apparently Conor is a fan. And he was like, oh, this shit is going on in Colorado. I think he was in Vegas or California or something.
Yeah.
Your man's got a private jet on standby. So he's like, let's go. Let's hop on the plane. Went to Colorado and got in there during the main event or during the main card. It was great. I'm happy for all of them, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, Mike Perry started his pro MMA career, as quite a bright prospect. He was 7-0 and then joined the UFC. By the way, 7-0, I believe he knocked everybody out, 7-0. Joined the UFC, knocked out his first two opponents in the UFC. Then loses in a decision to Alan Jouban, which, by the way, was his first fight ever to go the distance. And then from there, he would never win more than 2 fights in a row ever again, as in the UFC.
That sucks.
And he finished his MMA career, at least for now, 14-8. Then he joins BKFC in 2022. He beats Julian Lane. Then he beats Michael Venom Page, and now he beats former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold. I mean, my goodness. Quite a little record Platinum Mike Perry is building up over there at BKFC.
For sure. He kind of put the beats on MVP, man. He's probably tagged MVP more than MVP's been tagged his entire career in a single fight. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, Mike, MVP basically had 2 hands tied behind his back. Couldn't kick, couldn't knee, couldn't move around the same way he's, used to, especially in a small little circle like that. But I mean, that's the game. And that's why Mike Perry's a beast, and that's why he wins.
Okay, let's talk about... Let's talk about this co-main event now between former UFC lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez taking on Chad Mendes, defeating Chad Money Mendes by a split decision. The scorecards read 47-46, 2 of them for Eddie Alvarez. Chad Mendes getting his own 47-46. Mark, start us off this time. What was your take of this back and forth bare knuckle clash between Eddie Alvarez and Chad Mendes?
I love Eddie Alvarez, man. I just love this dude. It's so good to see him back getting a win in combat sports on a big stage. There are certain guys who I just feel like were born to be fighters. And to me, Eddie Alvarez has always felt like one of those guys. It's so natural to him. And that's why he's the underground king, I guess. But he looked good here, man. It was good to see it. They both look good. Chad looked fast as shit and powerful, just like we thought he would. And I was afraid that he was just too enhanced for Eddie when picking this fight last week, and that Eddie's superior technique that I knew he had would not be able to overcome that. But I'm happy to be wrong, man. The technique shone through. Eddie adjusted more and more as the fight went on, started landing cleaner, really put it on Chad in the 5th round, started to time him, started to hurt him, and it was close the whole way for sure. But I thought Eddie just slightly edged it. I haven't rewatched it or anything. But I was glad to see him get the W. Not to mention, got the autographed Eddie gloves right here. So let's drive the value of these babies up. Give me some more wins. Give me a BKFC belt.
There you go. There you go. Okay, Omar.
Dude, this fight was fantastic. But can we quickly touch and give a shout out to motherfucking Jamie Alvarez for bringing back the Eddie! Eddie! I can't tell you how much I missed that shit until I actually started hearing it. So fucking
Is that his wife?
That's his wife, baby.
Yes.
His wife's been doing that at his fights for like a decade. And it's, for me personally, quite a bit of a staple for Eddie Alvarez fights. And I feel like this did not occur when he was in ONE. I don't think we had Jamie screaming when he was in OneFC.
She may not have been over there.
And that is why he may not have done as well. I'm just saying.
It's a theory.
Just saying.
Theory.
This was a great fight, man. To be honest, I watched it 3 times. I love this fight. This fight is pure violence. This was, I think, by far the most technical street fight that has ever been witnessed on national TV. This was wild. And I loved every minute of it. But Eddie Alvarez, you could see Eddie Alvarez grew up fighting probably dudes bigger than him on the back streets of Philly. Chad Mendes did not. And as much of a beast as Chad Mendes is, again, just like we talked about Perry and Rockhold, I don't think Mike Perry is the more technical boxer than Luke Rockhold. I don't even think Mike Perry is the most technical fighter over Rockhold, or the more technical fighter, I should say, over Rockhold. But in BKFC, in the world that is BKFC, Mike Perry takes that fight for me all day. And in the same way, Chad Mendes might have better boxing than Eddie Alvarez. God knows we've seen him hit pads and he looks ridiculous. But in BKFC, where the reality is the toughest dude here, not the cleanest boxer, will generally come away more successful. And the grit that Eddie showed, even the knockdowns were wholly different. I mean, there was one knockdown where Chad Mendes was like, no, just give me a minute, and kind of goes down on a knee and was kind of a Chad Mendes moment. Very similar to how, if this was MMA, this would have looked exactly how it looked when Conor McGregor got him against the cage, walked him down, and put him out. It was the same kind of thing. Chad Mendes doesn't like getting hit, just like Luke Rockhold doesn't like getting hit. Eddie Alvarez will get hit, look at you, smile, and say, hit me again. Eddie Alvarez is a crazy motherfucker, just like Luke Perry. I've been doing that for like the last week. Like Mike Perry is made for this. Honestly, man, I think Eddie Alvarez is also made for this and could very well be another face of BKFC. I don't know how much longer he's got in his career, but for me, if they're paying him right, keep your ass there and box these dudes up.
Nice.
I don't hate that take. I really don't.
Yeah, man.
Fucking love Alvarez in here, man. He's so good. And I think there's no one that I think is going to be more technical than Chad Mendes. I think Chad Mendes is probably going to be the peak of that in that promotion for right now.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the preview portion. No, I'm sorry. I'm skipping over the Sphere. Let's go inside the MMA Sphere with Omar Artola, buddy. What's going on in the world of MMA?
Quite a little bit.
Quite a little bit.
Yeah, quite a little bit. So why don't we start off with a little update on Francis Ngannou. So as we know, Francis has not fought since, I want to say, January of 2022. We are now in May of 2023. He has been, we have been hearing rumors about different organizations making offers or talking to Francis, and we're kind of whittling down here, and guys are starting to drop out of the race. The next one who's officially dropped out, and just having talked to Ariel a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, about the situation, was Chatri, who's the CEO of One Championship. And apparently he met with Francis for quite some time. They had a talk about the situation, about offers and things like that. And it seems like money, and it seems like this has been the same kind of message across the board, even from the Dave who runs BKFC, is the money doesn't really seem to be the issue. Everybody seems to be kind of aligned on the money situation, but it seems to be, and I quote, non-financial matters that seem to be the X factor that is causing Francis to have a little bit of trouble finding a permanent home during his free agency. So there haven't really been any specifics as to what that is, although, if we remember from the original interviews that he'd been doing, he'd been talking about a couple different things like, retirement things and a lot of the things that the fighters union at one time were basically trying to fight for that didn't really work out in their favor. And a lot of them tended to have lost their jobs basically as a result. But there's a lot of speculation still right now. People are saying that PFL seems to have the best chance at a Francis contract as of right now. But again, depending on what those non-financial matters are, we may not see a deal right away. So we'll keep you up to date here.
Yeah. So just to add to that a little bit, after Chatri came out and said that they had decided to not make any offers to Francis and everything, I guess Francis and Ariel had a conversation, and Francis said that from his perspective, he thinks that Chatri is kind of trying to get ahead of a story and save face a little bit, because really what happened is that Francis was already close with, quote, an organization, which everyone assumes is PFL, and that he had this meeting on the books with Chatri and basically took it out of respect, but said, look, I'm pretty near signing a deal with PFL, so, like, I don't know what you want to throw at me, but, like, I think I'm ready to go here. And that he thinks Chatri just tried to play the whole, oh, we didn't want him anyway deal before it comes out that he chose PFL over One. So who knows the truth in that regard, but wanted to add in Francis's perspective.
Interesting. Some businessmanship going on there.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the list, quite a sad story. There was a fighter, a former UFC fighter, was in the UFC for just a few fights. Unfortunately didn't really make a successful run. But his name is Felipe Colares. He is unfortunately the victim of a bus hitting him on his way back from training in Rio de Janeiro. He was taken to the hospital, but he died in the ambulance.
Fuck that. Oh, my God.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was 29 years old. Had actually been winning, just had a baby, and the whole deal. Like, it's pretty terrible. So I definitely feel for his family. I feel for his team. Yeah, pretty sad shit there.
I mean, dude, it's like the fucking the most cliched phrase that people use of like, hey, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. The dude fucking gets hit by a bus.
Yeah, dude.
The worst part about that story is obviously his youth being not even 30 years old, but the worst part of that story is that he has a kid. He has a baby.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, that was my worst part too. When I read the headline and saw that, I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah, man.
Yep. And like he like just had the baby too. The baby is relatively 8 months. 8 months after the birth of his first son.
Yeah, that's awful. Awful.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, that sucks.
Next on the list, I did have some of that Francis news we were talking about as far as the PFL is concerned. But that really had more to do with Chael Sonnen trying to get in the mix. And Chael Sonnen's almost been like the Elon Musk of the MMA world, where this man just throws out tweets just to get people riled the fuck up. And half the time, I don't know if it's real. Sometimes it's very on the nose. Other times, it's just one of those things where Chael's like, I'm just sharing with you this idea. And like, confuses me sometimes. I fucking love listening to Chael though. He's very addictive. I gotta say.
Oh really? I mean, all respect to Chael. He is doing his thing. He's cashing in, and he's the man. But I have a hard time listening to Chael.
He's a screamer. He likes to scream quite a bit.
Yes, all by himself in his own studio.
Yep.
Somebody get that guy a glass of water right now.
Like, I don't even think I could listen to monologues from many people, but I could listen to Chael talk shit for like hours. He has made an entirely new career. He realizes at one point during his fighting career, he's like, I have the gift of gab. Yeah, 100%. The man is super
he's
smart.
Good. He can just go. He can just turn on his camera in his studio. I bet you he's by himself. I bet you it's a one-man show. He turns on his camera and he sits down in that chair and he just talks. He just goes.
Dude, but his insight to a lot of things is actually like sometimes he says some wild shit, but there is a lot of insight that he has into the business and into how certain things work that I think is super interesting and really fun to listen to. So if you haven't listened to his podcast, I highly recommend it. It's called You're Welcome. But do that after listening to our fucking podcast. Don't you dare
and
switch
also,
over right now.
Bear in mind, part of his skill and talent is that he never says He never says or He just is able to keep going. He keeps extending his thought, and he fills hours and hours of content with his voice.
That's
anyway,
how you know we're all
I don't
mids.
have that gift.
Yeah, we're all mids.
We are, man.
All right. Next on the list here. So Ryan Garcia, I don't even think we touched on this when after the fight happened or after the fight completed, but obviously Gervonta Davis stopped Ryan Garcia, I believe in the 7th round via body shot, took his rib home with him. I think a lot of people thought it was just a liver shot, but you could see that was his floating rib that he got caught with, and it sounds like he had an issue in training before that. So for those of you who haven't taken a body shot, you can look up the recent video of somebody who decided it was a good idea to take a body shot from Ilia Topuria. That man is probably still shitting blood right now. So if you have a problem with the way Ryan Garcia handled that, I suggest you walk into a gym, have somebody hit you in the liver, and see how you take it. So, but long story short, he split from his trainer Joe Goosen as a result, or maybe not as a result, but definitely after the culmination of that fight. I'm interested to see what happens with that and where he goes. We've seen this from a lot of fighters in MMA where, they lose a big fighter, they're on a losing streak, and they switch gyms and they switch camps and coaches and things like that. And sometimes it works out for him, and sometimes they get even worse, trying to do things that are not them. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But all I can say is whoever does end up training Ryan Garcia, they need to tape his right hand around his fucking mouth when he throws that left hook, because he's going to die continuing to do that.
He's gotten away with it.
He has, against guys who are not at the tippity top of the mountain.
Right.
And you could see, he's been knocked down, I think, once in his career up until that point by, I don't remember that dude's name, but it was a few fights ago, and he got knocked down, like for real. And this was the one where you could see, man, Gervonta landed a couple times, a few times, and landed with precision. And had he kept his hand up, he still would have gotten hit, but it would not, I don't think it would have resulted in a knockdown. I think he would have definitely felt it. He definitely would have been able to, defend against it, and it wouldn't have resulted in a knockdown the way that it did. But that's neither here nor there. All right, let's get into some fight announcements, and let's move right along. First on the list here, we have Maxime Grishin versus Felipe Lins. That has been added to the UFC Vegas card on June 3rd. Next on the list, we have Alan Nascimento. He is out, actually, against his fight with Tim Elliott.
I like
Tim Elliott will now be facing Victor Altamirano, and that will also be going down on June 3rd. Juliana Pena is out against her fight with Amanda Nunes. Nunes will now be fighting Irene Aldana for the strap at UFC 289 on June 10th. A lot of people were really happy at this result, that Juliana Pena was not fighting, that there's, the real contender is fighting. I didn't really care for that take. I wanted this shit finished. I wanted us to conclude this stuff. We are 1-1. I don't really care about how the performances went. I think we're kind of at an even keel here as far as who's the better fighter of them, their performances of their fights. And I wanted one more. I think this is bullshit, but here we are. And I think it's bullshit more so because I think Amanda's going to retire after this fight.
Oh, do you?
I do. I have the feeling in my jellies.
Yeah, I also think Raquel deserves it more than Irene Aldana. It's considering she's beaten Irene Aldana.
Amen
but
to that.
I guess Raquel has already gotten her chance at Amanda, and that's why they're going with Aldana. But yeah, it's a little bit of a random one.
I think the other portion of it too is that I think they have to wait a little bit longer, and I know that I feel like Raquel is trying to get the fight in before the baby comes. By June, that baby's going to be here already, and I don't know if she wants to do all that.
Well, wait. So when is the Nunes fight?
June 10th.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, the baby's going to be here in like 2 weeks, bro.
Yeah,
I feel like we're pretty much right there. All right. Next on the list, moving right along on the June 17th card in Vegas, we have Nicholas Mota versus Manuel Torres, as well as Hani Lawrence versus Dan Argueta.
Ronnie.
Is it Ronnie? Could never know anymore.
I know.
I don't trust R's.
I second guess every R that I see.
Yeah, I don't trust them. They're fucking imposters, these R's. Next on the list, we have David Onama versus Gabriel Santos. That has been added to UFC's Jacksonville card on June 24th. We also have Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane. Gregory Rodriguez Hobocop versus Dennis Tululin. My girl Yasmin Haragui versus Denise Gomes. Gomes? Is it Gomes?
I believe.
All right, 0 for 2 on that one. Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva, also added to the Jacksonville card. And rounding this card out here, Neil Magny versus Phil Rowe.
Phil. Okay, Philly Fresh.
As Mark alluded to, this is basically going to be a mirror match of fights.
Virtually identical.
Next on the list, we have Max Griffin, not to be confused with the former Maxime Grishin. Max Griffin versus Michael Morales has been added to UFC Vegas 76 on July 1st. My fucking girl Norma Dumont versus Chelsea Chandler added to UFC Fight Night on July 15th. I also want to highlight really quick. I understand that Norma Dumont isn't ranked, but like why? Because you have on this website fucking Amanda Nunes on this top 10, right? Of this top ranked, right? Your top 15 fighters in the division. No one's on that list but Amanda. And you're acting like Norma Dumont hasn't been keeping the fucking featherweight division alive by her damn self for the last 3 years.
They have Norma ranked at bantamweight, which is so stupid because she doesn't fight there. She's taking a spot from someone who should be ranked at bantamweight. And all they have to do is just put her at number 1 at featherweight. It's very simple. I don't understand the logic.
You know it'd be crazy if they rank her and they rank her 15th in the featherweight division.
She's 1 through 15. Every spot.
I honestly think they don't want to rank her because they don't want to give her a fight. They don't want to give her a title fight.
Oh, 100%.
They just want her fighting random ass women in the featherweight division.
Correct.
How unfortunate.
Sorry, Norma.
Justice for Norma Dumont.
They are trying to let her contract run out so she can walk and they can get rid of featherweight.
This is awful. Especially if Amanda Nunes retires, that'll be the end of that.
Correct. That's what I mean.
All right. Also on this July 15th, headlining actually the July 15th card, we have a sick fight between Vicente Luque and Rafael Dos Anjos. I can't properly explain to you how stupid and ridiculous and crazy and amazing this fight is going to be. So definitely make sure to tune in for that one, if nothing else. Next on the list here for the July 22nd card in London, we have Davy Grant versus Daniel Marcos.
Ooh,
we have
that. Who the fuck is Daniel Marcos?
I don't know. We have Mark DeCasey versus Joel Alvarez. And rounding this out, we have Jai Herbert versus Fares Ziam. And last on my list here, targeting the August 19th event, we have Cody Garbrandt returning versus Mario Bautista. And that is all we have.
How the fuck does Davy Grant beat Rafael Assunção and his reward is a 1-0 UFC fighter?
I'm wondering if this is maybe something that he wanted to do as a result of being in London, but I don't. It's so far away. I don't understand why you can't find somebody.
Find anyone to fight him? I mean,
in 2 months seems crazy.
Yeah, I agree. It's stupid. That kid's kind of good too, if I remember.
I was like, maybe the kid's nasty though. Maybe he's maybe he's nasty.
Yeah.
All right.
Good work, Omar. Good work.
Good job, buddy.
Thanks. Hey.
Love you, Chael.
Should pull a Kelvin Gastelum. Hey.
Hey.
Chael, be nice to my boy Todd Atkins.
Chael, I keep hearing Chael Sonnen call Alex Pereira Piera. It drives me up the fucking wall.
Dude, too many people in like high level MMA media get that name wrong. It's not that hard.
Duplessis. Even if you don't want to say it like Duplessis, it's not Duplessis. I can tell you that.
Yeah, dude.
That's what I called him when he first came out.
Too many people in MMA get way too many names wrong. Like even Rogan will.
They accept that they're doing it wrong, and they're just like, no, that's all I got. That's it.
Yeah. Look, I can appreciate. I have some empathy. I can appreciate that guys like the people who do the commentary table and all that stuff. They have a lot of information to synthesize for an event, and sometimes things fall through the cracks.
John Anik is wild for doing that job as good as he does. That's fucking crazy. Just that alone. Forget all the other shit he actually does.
That's his job, though. Like, that's his job, and he takes the job.
But that is a job. That's a job in and of itself, though. Like, the fact that he still also has to do other shit is crazy, because we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of fighters with a variety of ways that names are pronounced and languages that are being used here for names. 100%. And the man is, like, on point 99% of the time. It is amazing.
2 weekends ago for APFC 4, there were 21 fights, which means that I had to sit in on 42 fighter interviews. And for each of them, or most of them, to get their name pronunciation. Do you have a nickname? Where does your nickname go? In the beginning or in the middle? Where are you from? Where are you from originally? How do you want me to say it? By way of, or do you want me to just say one or the other? How do you say the name of your town? Or do you want me to say the name of your gym? Or like, and there's just so much information to synthesize.
Holy shit.
Sometimes
I never really considered that.
Dude, one time for an XFC card that I did, I focused so much on names that are obviously tricky or foreign for me. And there was this one guy in the card whose name was Oberst. And I had never seen that last name before, but it seemed straightforward enough for me. He was like an American kid. Oberst.
Is he German, though? That seems like a German name.
I think he was black.
Oh. Well.
But my brain, because I was like, got that one, that's easy. I read it as Oberset, and I just stuck an E in there in my fucking stupid brain. Then I was too busy focusing on other trickier names. And he won his fight by like a head kick. And I'm like, Oberset. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, I'm killing this dude's fucking decision. And then he comes up to me in the cage and he grabs my hand with like the microphone. He's like, it's Oberst. He's like, you're going to remember the name. And he says that like to the audience, but he also kind of says it to me because I fucked up his name. I was like, okay, bye-bye.
Damn. Shit.
Anyway, all that story is to say, shit falls through the cracks sometimes. But at the level of the UFC,
it's a good story.
At the level of the UFC, you got to get the guy who's fighting for the middleweight championship. You got to get his name right.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of other examples because there's other examples of dudes in like high-profile fights that they fuck up. I can't think off the top of my head, but like there absolutely is.
Yeah, man. Also, real quick before we move on too far away from it, I have to say this because this is like my thing. You go back and you listen to interviews of Chael Sonnen when he was fighting. His voice is so different. It's like there's the voice change of Mackenzie Dern, of her accent, and then there's the vocal change of Chael Sonnen.
What's so different?
Dude, you go back, listen to when he was fighting Anderson or when he fought Nate Marquardt or somebody.
Yeah.
His voice is like nasal. There's like a brightness to his voice. Yeah. Now his voice sounds like someone is dragging something across a piece of sandpaper.
Really?
He
gotta
is
pay attention.
he is murdering his voice.
I don't think he sounds that different at all. Like I said, I
God.
think the only thing that's different is he's just yelling all the time.
But he's yelling all the time, and he's killing his vocal cords.
Well, that I believe. But he is yelling quite a bit now. I don't think he used to yell quite as much. But I listened to the Tito Ortiz press conference quite a bit because he was fucked up in that interview, in that press conference, and it was quite brilliant.
Okay, let's move on. Previews, here we go.
150 previews to do.
I know.
Boom.
Here we go. First one up. Rizin 42 going down May 6th at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan, headlined by a bantamweight bout between Yuki Motoya and former Rizin bantamweight champion Kai Asakura. Before we talk about a couple of fights from this Rizin card, any other fights you guys want to spotlight?
I will say real quick that Bukaw is on this card, which I was unaware of until today. It is a kickboxing fight. It is not an MMA fight, but Bukaw is he's like Sanchai. He's like Superlek. Like he's one of those names on that side of the world that is synonymous with superiority and winning and the tippy top of Muay Thai and kickboxing. So if you haven't had a chance to watch Bukaw fight, I highly recommend it. The man is like a juggernaut. He hits just as hard as it looks like to hit him. So I definitely recommend watching that fight.
Okay. Let's start off.
I just wanted to share real quick for
go.
Omar that the odds on that fight are actually very tight. Like
is that true?
He's barely favored. So I don't know the other guy, but could be a good one.
Well, the only problem, I would wonder if the only issue with him with the odds is because it's kickboxing and not Muay Thai. So you're taking away the elbows, you're taking away like certain, sweeps and things like that. I don't think you can sweep and catch things in kickboxing the way you can in Muay Thai. True. So you're taking away quite a few elements from a person who learns Thai boxing in Thailand. Clinching and sweeping and things like that are quite fundamental. So I wonder if it does change the game a bit.
Makes sense.
Okay, first fight we are going to check out here in the flyweight division for Rizin. John Dodson, a familiar name, taking on Tatsuki Saomoto. I hope I'm not saying that too wrong. John Dodson, to MMA purists needing really no introduction. He is a UFC veteran, former standout on Tough. And let's see, 38 years old, 23-13 as a pro, 11 knockouts on his record coming off of back-to-back wins at ex-MMA 4 back in last April a year ago, and most recently Rizin 40, Rizin versus Bellator, where he defeated Hideo Tokoro by knockout. And taking on Tatsuki Saomoto, the 26-year-old out of Japan, 18-2 as a pro. What's so funny?
Nothing. We're having fun at your expense. Omar's muted.
I'm muted. That's why. I said I think it's Hideo Tokoro.
What?
Hideo?
Hideo.
Oh, the fight that Dodson won?
Yes.
Sorry.
I was laughing because I guess Omar didn't. He wasn't actually being as funny as I thought he was. I thought he was silently mouthing Hideo again and again.
No, I was muted.
Okay. You know what? All right. Mark, start us off. Give us your take between Dodson and Saomoto. If I'm saying
all right. Dodson is slightly favored, -130. Saomoto is +100, even money. Interesting matchup here. You have a kid in Saomoto who's on a 14-fight win streak. He's already 4-0 in Rizin, 18-2 overall. He's going to take on Dodson, who's looking for a bit of a late career resurgence here after debuting with the aforementioned KO of Hideo Tokoro on New Year's Eve. And I got to say, I like what I've seen from Dodson very recently. He has been letting his hands go again, and that's always been his biggest weapon. He kind of hit this point where he stopped letting them go, and his hand speed and his power for his size have always been stupid. So, like, that's his bread and butter. So I know he's 38. I know that's absurd for a flyweight, but I'm going to pick him here. As good as Saomoto has looked, I think Dodson's athleticism, even at 38, is still going to be on a level like Saomoto hasn't seen. So I will go with actually another John Dodson knockout, round 2 knockout.
Omar.
I'd have to agree. He's also had a couple of BKFC fights, for those of you who aren't aware. He's had a BKFC fight in 2022, and he had a BKFC fight a few months ago in February. Both of them were also round one knockouts because John Dodson has some of the fastest fucking hands ever. One of those wins, actually, for you guys is Ryan Benoit. Ryan Benoit tried his hand at BKFC and got completely smashed by John Dodson. So I don't think he did it again. But like Mark said, John Dodson's been letting his hands go both with and gloves on and gloves off. So I think he's been looking really good. Saomoto has a great resume as far as his wins are concerned. The kid hasn't fucking lost since 2016 and has had quite a run since then. But these for me are not. I don't know anybody really. So it's hard to really get a gauge as to how good he is and how talented he is based on compared to somebody who's had the experience and had the test of will that we know that John Dodson has. So I'm going to go with John Dodson. I can't imagine that the hand speed is going to be slower than Saomoto. I think Saomoto will be at a disadvantage there. And I think if John Dodson throws those hands, throws them as fast as he can, I think he lands and I think he puts him out. Round one, KO.
Yeah, to be quite transparent, I honestly just don't know these Japanese fighters out of Rizin well enough to give any kind of confident pick. So I'm going to roll with my man, John the Magician Dodson. I'm going to say knockout round one. Why not? Okay, let's see. In the lightweight division here, we have Roberto de Souza taking on Spike Carlyle. So de Souza most recently appeared in Rizin versus Bellator in a losing effort against AJ McKee. He is the 33-year-old out of Brazil, out of Sao Paulo, 14-2 as a professional with 10 submission victories on his record. That loss to AJ McKee snapped a 5-fight win streak, all under the Rizin banner. He's taking on Spike, the Crucifixion Carlyle, the 29-year-old out of San Diego, California. 14 wins, 4 defeats. Of his 14 victories, only one has gone the distance. Most recently, he also lost at the hands of AJ McKee at Bellator 286 back in last October. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take of Carlyle versus de Souza.
I think this is a great fight. De Souza had a great performance against AJ McKee in that New Year's card. I think he gave AJ McKee all he could really take, to be quite honest with you. That fight was very, very close. I think it was very taxing on AJ McKee, and I think we saw AJ McKee, really, really work for that win. The one thing I think is very interesting about de Souza is that I think he's someone who can keep Spike Carlyle's cardio and his forward pressure, I think, are what set him apart quite differently from everybody else. I think that's really where his bread and butter is and what makes people uncomfortable in the cage with him. And I just have a feeling that de Souza is not going to have a problem trying to crash that distance. I don't think he'll mind trying to take the fight to the ground or staying in close and trying to work his jiu-jitsu if it comes down to it. But the nice thing I like about de Souza is as much as he can rely on his jiu-jitsu, he can strike too. I really enjoyed his striking in that AJ McKee fight. It's not his bread and butter, but it is effective enough that he's able to defend himself with his striking and then try to implement a game from there. And while he was unable to really do that against AJ McKee successfully as an overall thing, I think he'll have a better opportunity to do it against Spike Carlyle. I will be going with de Souza by unanimous decision.
Okay, Mark.
So de Souza is a decent favorite. He's minus 325. Spike is plus 250. Interesting bout here. De Souza, as you said, coming off the high-profile loss to McKee, competitive fight. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage on Spike. It's funny that Spike's coming off against a loss to the same guy. This, to me, is a fight that de Souza has to win. Like, if he wants to be looked at as an elite lightweight on the world stage, you can't lose to Spike Carlyle. And I know he's kind of already looked at as an elite lightweight, but Spike is a guy people know. He was in the UFC, he was into Bellator. You got to get this win. And it is an interesting challenge. Spike is big. He's strong. He's an athletic dude. He's not easy to control at all, which is obviously what de Souza is looking to do. He can catch you with a weird shot if you're off your game for a moment. We saw that with AJ in a couple moments there. It's no walk in the park fighting Spike. if De Souza's on the level that he has appeared to be, then he wins this fight. He's capable on the feet. I don't think he's outgunned there, and he is an absolute wizard on the mat. And I think Spike is probably a bit too reckless to not get caught in some bad positions, maybe not get caught in terms of being tapped. He's a very hard man to tap. He's never been finished in his life. So I'll say that he can survive in that regard, but I think De Souza can get enough done in the grappling and threaten enough to win a clear UD.
Yeah, to survive, I think fights, and when I say survive, going the distance with guys like Bill Algeo, Billy Q, and AJ McKee, as good as De Souza is, and I think as elite as his submission game is, I don't see him closing out that fight.
This is a case of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. Spike Carlyle never been finished. Roberto De Souza only has won by finish. Of his 14 victories, none of them have been by decision.
Wow. Interesting.
4 knockouts, 10 subs. So many first-round finishes for De Souza. Spike Carlyle does have 4 defeats. But I got to roll with De Souza here. I think he's just going to be the more talented fighter overall. In terms of who will win out, the immovable object or the unstoppable force, I will say that this will be Spike Carlyle's this will be De Souza's first win by decision. I'm going to give him a unanimous decision. I'll say 30-26. Okay, moving on to the bantamweights here for Rizin. Naoki Inoue taking on Juan Archuleta, a familiar name. Inoue, the 25-year-old out of Japan, 16-3 as a pro, 9 submission victories. He himself has never been finished, coming off of a win last December. He will be standing across from the Bellator veteran, Juan the Spaniard Archuleta, the 35-year-old out of California, 27-4 as a pro with 11 knockouts to his name. Omar, start us off. Give us your take of Inoue versus Archuleta.
Yeah, so it looks like Inoue fights out of Longo Weidman MMA, which I think is interesting. I did not know that he was affiliated there, or according to Tapology anyway. So that's an interesting little tidbit there, especially when you consider what that team kind of considers their bread and butter. The reality is Juan Archuleta is a tough out any day of the week for anybody. Juan Archuleta is a fantastically well-rounded fighter, fantastic ground game. His strikes are generally on point, very, very heavy-handed when he actually lands something on you. And the dude doesn't go away, man. He's a very, very tough guy to put out and a very tough guy to win against. I think Inoue is going to have his hands full in this fight. He's very, very good. He has a solid amount of wins. But just looking at the loss against Matt Schnell, although it was a few years ago, as good as we know Matt Schnell is, I do think that Juan Archuleta is a better fighter than Matt Schnell, and I can't imagine him losing or Archuleta losing this fight. So I'm going to go with Archuleta by unanimous decision.
Okay, Mark?
So Archuleta is about a 2-1 favorite. He's minus 210. Inoue is plus 170 as the dog. I can't believe that he is still 25 years old. When you said that, I had to look it up. I was thinking you were wrong. So he was like 20, that means, when he was in the UFC, which is wild. But yeah, this is a cool fight. I kind of forgot that Archuleta had asked to stay over and take some fights in Rizin. So good for him that he's getting this to happen. He will be a bit smaller, 1 inch of height and 2 inches of reach on the side of Inoue. Inoue 16-3 in his career. He was only 1-1 in his little brief UFC stint about 5 years ago, where he did drop a split decision to Matt Schnell, as Omar mentioned. He's rattled off 7 out of 8 since then. His only loss is to Hiromasu Agikubo, which is the man we just saw Kyoji Horiguchi beat on New Year's Eve. He's good, but kind of same way Omar alluded to, as good as he is, I think Juan Archuleta is very good. He has only lost to the elite of the elite, Pitbull, Sergio Pettis, Rafion Stotts. He's a really well-rounded fighter. He's stronger than Inoue. I think his wrestling's going to be a factor here that he can lean on. Inoue's slick with the subs, but Archuleta has been tapped once in his life, and it was almost a decade ago, so I don't think that's a huge concern. So this is kind of similar to the Dodson pick for me. I think the athleticism, the power, and the overall well-roundedness of Archuleta's game is just going to end up being too much here. So I will also take Archuleta by UD.
We are unanimous in our unanimous pick of Juan Archuleta. I think he is the more experienced fighter here, obviously. And I think that experience is going to shine through, and I'm going to see him getting also the unanimous decision over Inoue. Okay, main event for Rizin here. It is Japan versus Japan. We have Kai Asakura taking on Yuki Motoya. I hope I'm not saying that too wrong. Asakura, the 29-year-old out of Japan, 19-4 as a pro, 11 knockouts, coming off a loss from last December. December of 21. Yuki Motoya, the 33-year-old, also out of Japan, 33 wins, 9 defeats with 1 no contest. He's riding a 5-fight win streak coming into this weekend, and he has 12 submission victories to his name. Mark, start us off.
All right, so this is pretty close odds. Kai Asakura is the favorite. He's minus 175. Yuki Motoya is plus 145 as the dog. They're basically the same size. Yuki, let's try that again. Yuki Motoya is a dude who is 43 fights into his career at this point, at only 33 years old. He has been around for a minute. He's fought a who's who of guys. If you look down his resume, you'll see plenty of names that you recognize. Inoue, who we just spoke of, Patchy Mix, Oigi Kubo, Victor Henry, Justin Scoggins, Horiguchi, Alan Nascimento, list goes on. He's fought a lot of dudes. He's had his ups and downs, obviously more wins than losses. And he's on a nice streak right now. He just had a huge knockout of formerly top 10 ranked Rogerio Bontorin, who he knocked out with a big knee. And he's getting a big chance here against Kai Asakura. Kai has been the champ in the past. He had, if I remember, he had dropped the belt because he was dropping down to flyweight. We're back up at bantamweight here. The reason his name is known to most Americans is because he's the man who knocked out Kyoji Horiguchi back in 2019. Of course, Kyoji then got his revenge in the rematch and knocked him out. Kai also has a 1-on-1 series with Manel Kape. Like, he's very legit. He's a dangerous dude. He's a dangerous finisher. He did lose his last fight to Oigi Kubo, which I don't love. I mean, he's solid, but he's not my favorite. But I still kind of tend to think Asakura is the better fighter here. Motoya's dangerous dude. As I said, super experienced, but I think he may just be a level under what Asakura is. So I will say Asakura gets it done by decision.
Omar.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I'm not going to harp on a lot of the same things that Mark talked about because I do have a lot of the same points, especially when we talk about the value of his resume and kind of the quality of the wins that he has on here and the rivalries that he has. I mean, not a ton of people go 1-1 with Kyoji Horiguchi. Nobody wants to fucking fight Manel Kape, and he's fought him twice. So you got to respect it. And Kai has been around for quite a minute too. You know what I mean? We talk about Yuki having a lot of fights and having a long resume as well, but Kai's been fighting since 2012 it looks like, as far as his professional career is concerned. Somehow went professional, then went back to amateur it looks like, and then went back to professional. But either way, he's been inside of that cage fighting in front of people for a decade, over a decade now. So he's, I don't think the experience is going to play as far as time is concerned in the sport a big factor at all. I think that Kai has probably gotten a better handle on the type of competition you're looking for when we get to the high levels of MMA. And I think he's going to walk away with it, man. I don't think he's going to be able to put him away either, so I'm going to go with the Asakura by decision.
Again, admittedly, I don't know a ton about these Japanese fighters, so I will roll with a guy who is on the tear here and who recently finished Rogerio Bontorin. I will go with Yuki Motoya. I will say he's going to get the submission victory, and I will say round number 3.
Dude, if fucking Mike gets this fucking pick.
We couldn't be unanimous on the whole card. Someone needed to shake it up.
I'm going to lose it. These I'm going to put 15 grand on fucking Snake Eyes here, and then he hits it is absolutely insane to me.
No. Come on, bro. All right, let's move on to promoter 2 out of 3 for this weekend. We have one fight night, Johnson versus Moraes 3. Okay, one championship doing big things. This event will mark one championship's first ever event hosted in the United States.
Oh, no way. I didn't even fucking realize it's in the U.S. Where's it at?
Colorado. Same place
Absolutely missed that completely. Wow.
Elevation.
Wow, home game for DJ, nearly.
Same town and same arena that BKFC was just in.
Which, for Luke Rockhold, I think,
Colorado.
It's not great. Luke Rockhold just had an issue with elevation, and they threw his ass right back in there and took the gloves off.
That's true.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Take them gloves off.
Oh, that affects my pick a little bit.
Ooh. You guys can catch this on Amazon Prime Video. If you're already a Prime member, you can watch these fights for free, basically. Let's see. Yeah, Colorado was chosen for their U.S. debut because of the Colorado State Athletic Commission was the first ones, apparently, to approve ONE's rule set.
Nice.
So before we talk about a little handful of these fights on this card, any other fights or fighters that you guys want to spotlight?
I know Omar's got a few.
Yeah, baby.
I'm having the toughest fucking time pulling up this card. It pulled up like the first card that they had together. And
dude, go to Tapology. I always feel like the most updated cards are on Tapology. They're the best.
Second. Please start with Mark here so we're not losing time.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple shout outs. I'll save the ones I know Omar wants. Reiner de Ridder's on the card in a grappling contest. Obviously, he got knocked out pretty bad in his last title defense, so he's taken some time from the actual MMA, but he will be grappling against Tai Ruotolo. I don't know him, Omar. I don't know if you do, but always good to see Reiner de Ridder grappling. And then a fight that we're not going to do is a guy whose name I always struggle to pronounce, but Ong Lon Sang, who is fighting Rong Fan on this card. He's a dude who was a big factor in ONE for a while. Went on a little bit of a skid, but he's got a streak going again. I think he's opening the main card, possibly. Or actually, it's hard to tell. There's a lot of fights listed on the main card. And then, there's a couple higher up the card that I'm sure Omar wants to shout out, so I will let him do that.
Yeah, I don't know Tai Ruotolo, but Reiner de Ridder is a motherfucker, especially if we're just doing grappling. That's crazy. Ong Long Song, he's pretty decent heavyweight. He's not the most technical, but the dude wins. So, but the other one I wanted to shout out was Mikey Mushemi. He is a grappling phenom. I kind of like to think of him as Superman because the dude looks like Clark Kent when he's like normal, the nerdiest kid with glasses and like the whole nine. And then you see him get in there and just wreck people, stretching out limbs that shouldn't be stretched certain ways and doing all kinds of transitions on the ground that are just phenomenal. So definitely recommend watching this fight. He's one of these guys too. And he was actually a guy that had me thinking about, when guys grapple and they don't tap, how it really becomes an issue for the guy who's got that submission. Like he has to make a choice whether he wants to rip this guy's leg off or not. And he kind of had to make that choice in his last grappling event when he had this guy in a knee bar and the guy wasn't going to tap and he didn't tap and it ended up going to decision and Mikey had like stretched it for maybe like 2 minutes or something like that. Come to find out every tendon in that dude's knee is gone at this point. Like his leg is wrecked. But that's to say that Mikey is a beast and you should definitely watch it if you're into grappling. 100%.
Okay, let us begin here.
Wait, don't you want to shout out Rodtang?
Oh yeah, bro, come on.
I'm an asshole. I thought we were doing Rodtang. That's how much I love Rodtang.
Oh, we can. We were just doing the MMA.
No, it's fine. It totally makes sense. It's not MMA. My man Rodtang will be fighting on this card as well for a belt. My gym just had him in a seminar, which is probably when he did his kind of America tour all the way through Colorado. But we trained with him. We learned some kind of great fundamentals from him and stuff. And I can tell you one thing: the man is tiny and he is strong as all Christ. Like for real, that dude is all muscle. It's pretty wild. But yeah, man, he's a fantastic Muay Thai fighter. Very entertaining Muay Thai fighter. If you're not going to watch Muay Thai on the regular, this is one of those guys that I would say you probably want to make a habit of watching him.
Yeah, man, can you tell me how the dude he's fighting, when I click on him, does not have a record? like there's no way that's accurate, right?
I would assume they might not know who he is. A lot of these Muay Thai fights can tend to be in some odd locations and shit. I don't even know if they have all of Rodtang's fights because they only have his one championship ones. But Rodtang has like a ton of fights, so they may not just be looking at his pure Muay Thai fights from smaller organizations across the world, especially in Thailand.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, here I found his record. I found his record on other sites.
Let's begin, because Daddy's fucking fading over here, guys.
Bro, we have 12 more fights to preview.
Oh, my God. I'm going to fucking die. Okay, in the lightweight division, Super Sage Northcutt taking on Ahmed. How do you say his last name? Mujtaba. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, Sage Northcutt, former UFC veteran in the lightweight and welterweight divisions. 27 years old still, out of Texas. Let's see. At his one debut in May of 2019, Sage took on Cosmo Alexander, or I believe he's Brazilian, so is it Alexandre or something like that?
I would think so, yeah.
He got knocked out in like 30 seconds and fractured like 8 bones in his face and had to take quite a bit of time off. And this is his return fight. So I'm excited to see Sage back here. That was at welterweight, and he's dropping back down to 155 because he said that he's learned his lesson taking on guys who are just a little too big for him.
No, it's still 170 because it's one. So the lightweight is 170.
Well, yeah, but he's dropped.
And then this is featherweight then. This is 155.
Yeah, it's lightweight. It's lightweight.
But he is fighting at 155 right now?
No, he's fighting at 170 pounds, which is lightweight.
Right.
Are you sure?
In one, it is. That's why I'm trying to make sure we're on the right weight here, because I don't think Sage can make 155. So 170 seems like that's about right, which is lightweight there.
Well, Sage used to make 155 in the UFC, but in one with the rehydration, lightweight is 170, which is what this fight is at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas his first fight in one was at 185.
And that's the dude that broke his face.
Yes.
I see. Okay. A little confused, but I think I got it. Ahmed Mujtaba, the Wolverine, out of Pakistan. He's 9-2 with 2 knockouts and 5 submissions on his record. Coming in this weekend with back-to-back wins. Mark, why don't you start us off here? Give us your take and your pick.
So the favorite here is Sage. He's -160. Mujtaba is +130, so pretty close. Yeah. Admittedly, I don't know Mujtaba well, but what I do know is that he is regularly a lightweight, as opposed to the oftentimes middleweight monster in Cosmo Alexandre that won, for some reason, fed to Sage Northcutt in his debut, which obviously did not go well. So I'm happy to see Sage fighting a smaller dude again, who will be of similar size to him. Obviously, it's been a really long time for Northcutt, which makes this fight kind of like not even worth picking, because who fucking knows what happens 4 years later. But he always had talent. I'm going to bank on noticeable improvements having been made in his time off, considering how young he is and how much natural talent he did have. You would think there's room to grow. Mujtaba is a guy who's going to be looking to grapple, so we will learn one way or another pretty quickly, you would think, if Northcutt has shored up that part of his game. And it's possible that this just is kind of sad and he gets out grappled here, but I'm going to go ahead and put the good vibes out there, and I will say Sage Northcutt can stay on his feet long enough to win AUD.
Okay, Omar.
Let's go, baby. I'm here for Sage Northcutt. I was a fan before. I'm a fan now. He's had some difficult times here. He won his last 3 fights in the UFC, and I think they made a better offer for him in one. And when he got there, he got absolutely destroyed. But like Mark said, he had some growing up to do, man. He started very young. He got in the spotlight super, super young. And he's a very exciting and very charismatic kid, very polite. But you can tell even in the conversations that he has with people that he's much more grown up, a little bit more mature now. And I think him being able to completely focus on this and not have to juggle a lot of different things, especially when it comes to they were pushing him hard in the UFC, and there was a lot of promotion, a lot of like time that he spent having to do media and things like that because of how hard they wanted Sage Northcutt to kind of be something there, that I don't think the same pressure applies here. And although, people are on him right now and talking to him, I still think there's a little bit more of a focus that I think he has here in the situation. So I'm also going to go with Sage Northcutt here. I'm going to go with Northcutt by unanimous decision. But I would love for this man to come back and starch this kid in a round after 4 years off.
Okay. Let's see. I am going to be picky with my heart here as well. I'm going to go with Sage. I love Omar's point that, hey, before he left UFC, he left on a win streak. He left winning his last 3 fights.
Yeah.
Then he ran into a guy who was quite a bit bigger than him and had quite a pedigree of Muay Thai and kickboxing, and got caught bad in the very opening moments of that fight. So I think he's taking quite a bit of time off, and he's going to show off this tool set that he's been sharpening for these past 2 years. I'm going to say he's going to hand Mujtaba his first knockout loss. Also, he gets him out of there in the second round. Let's move on. Roberto Soldic, RoboCop, taking on Sebastian Kadestam, the Bandit. Soldic, RoboCop, the 28-year-old out of Germany. He is 20-3 as a pro with 1 no contest. 17 wins coming by way of knockout. Most recently, a no contest back in December due to accidental groin strike. Kadestam, the 32-year-old out of Sweden, he is 14-7 as a professional. He's riding back-to-back wins coming into this weekend. Omar, do us a favor and start us off. Give us your quick take and pick for this Roberto Soldic fight.
I'm pretty high on Soldic. I think the man is a real talent. He's got dynamite in his hands. I don't even really know if there's a safe way to approach a fight with this man. Dricus found some success the first time he fought him, found the exact opposite in the second time he fought him. So it's a real coin flip with Soldic when you talk about, whether, I mean, not really, man. I think he's going to win. I don't think it's a coin flip at all, to be quite honest. I think he starches him. I think it happens in the first round. Let's go Soldic.
Mark.
Yeah, he is a 4-1 favorite. He's minus 400. Kadestam is plus 300. One has changed their mind here on what they want to do with Soldic's debut. I mean, I guess not his debut anymore, but the other fight kind of didn't really happen. But initially they were debuting him against a guy who could have really sucked the fun out of things and presented some problems with wrestling, and obviously that ended in a nutshot, and now they've said, you know what, let's book him against a man who's going to stand in there and be ready to battle on the feet, and that's what Kadestam is going to be. And he's going to pay for it, because that's not the way that you want to fight Roberto Soldic. I don't think anyone has done that successfully yet. He doesn't really have another avenue to go, I wouldn't think, so I will say Roberto Soldic styles here and gets a round 2 knockout.
I mean, this just seems like a matchup made for Roberto Soldic to shine here and show off that power. Even though Kadestam only has 1 loss by knockout, he still has 7 losses. I think that Soldic just has a higher pedigree. And I am going to say that Soldic gives Sebastian his second knockout loss. I'll say round 1 knockout. It's going to get him out there. It's going to look great. A big highlight for one to be playing on their social media next week. Okay, moving on to my girl, Stamp Fairtex, taking on Elise Anderson. Stamp Fairtex, the 25-year-old out of Thailand. She's 9-2, 3 knockouts, 2 subs in MMA, coming off of a win back in September. Taking on Alyssa Anderson, Lil Savage, out of Mason, Michigan. 28 years old, 6-2 as a pro, coming off a win from last May. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
Okay, Stamp is minus 300. Anderson is plus 240. There is a 3-inch height and reach advantage for Anderson, so that's a factor. She is a scrapper from what I can see. I don't know her well. I tried to watch some highlights. She's going to have a grappling advantage, certainly, which is always where Stamp's opponents would look to exploit her game. But I think that Stamp is steadily improving her MMA game fight by fight. I think she's looking more comfortable in there with each fight. Obviously, we've seen her now win fights by submission. I think they're kind of hoping that Stamp could show out here and get a bit of a showcase. And I'll say that she will. I think maybe not a finish, though I could see that too, but I'll say that it's a good scrap and it's a stamp UD.
Omar?
Yeah, I would agree. I also don't think it's going to be a finish, but the thing I love about Stamp Fairtex is that her decisions generally come with a lot of ass beatings behind them. She's very, very active, throws a ton of elbows when she comes inside. Very active from the inside and from the clinch as well. So I do think that as long as she's able to not get manhandled on the ground, which, like Mark said, Fairtex has been working quite a bit on the ground. You could see the improvements are pretty exponential, especially when you consider how consistent her Muay Thai is and how elite it is, but consistent. You can see the improvements in her ground game, I feel like, with almost each MMA fight that she goes into. So I don't think Anderson, I think, is going to be that type of issue that maybe some of the other women in that division will be higher up. So I think Stamp Fairtex does style a little bit, and I think she takes a clear, unanimous decision with a lot of ass beating behind it.
Yeah, man. I love Stamp. I'm taking her. I'm going to go knockout. Let's see, she's going to get out of there. I say round 3. Boom. Fairtex K-pop dance. We out.
I'm so excited for the K-pop dance.
Yeah, man. Okay, main event. One fight night. We have Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson taking on Adriano Moraes one more time. This will be their third matchup. They have split so far 1-1, each finishing the other. Demetrius Johnson needing no introduction. He is the 36-year-old out of Washington State. 24-4 with one draw. Very well-rounded guy. Maybe one of the greatest skilled fighters we have ever seen compete in mixed martial arts. Only lost 4 times. One of those times he got finished. In fact, it is the only time he's ever been finished by Adriano Moraes, the Black Diamond. He is the 34-year-old out of Brazil. 20-4 as a professional with 10 subs on his record. Okay, let's talk about this. Omar, why don't you lead us off?
For those of you who are unaware, which I feel sorry for you, Demetrius Johnson is probably the greatest fighter you'll ever see in the octagon. There are some who would say it's John Jones, which I think is fair. I will make the argument it is.
Oh, wow. DJ's your number one? I didn't know that.
I think he is, man. There's something kind of miraculous about the fact that that man has almost always fought at a natural weight that a lot of other people don't do. And the level of success that he's had, both fighting at 125 and at his natural weight at 135 against guys who are visibly bigger than him, I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy. John Jones has been and it's not a knock against John Jones. You can't fault him for being a goddamn giant, but it just, to me, says something a little bit extra that DJ was able to essentially overcome a lot of those disadvantages, and be that successful. I know the undefeated record, though, on John Jones is going to be one of the main selling points, unfortunately, for a GOAT moment, which I'm okay with. But I think skill for skill, when it comes to how they fight, I think if DJ was the size of John Jones, I think he'd be better. That's just my opinion.
Sure.
Anyway, Adriano Moraes is a beast. The first 2 fights that they had were absolutely fantastic. We're obviously 1-1 apiece at this point. But I still think Demetrius Johnson is just a better fighter overall. I think his ability to adjust not only like between rounds, but in the moment, in the middle of a fight, in the middle of a round, right after a sequence, and for him to take in all that information and make the necessary adjustments, I think is unparalleled, frankly. I think that Demetrius is probably one of the smarter fighters that you'll ever see inside of the octagon as well, or inside of a cage. And the reality is this one might be it for Demetrius Johnson. We might very well be seeing the last fight that Demetrius Johnson will ever be a part of. And you guys need to make sure that you watch. You have to make sure that you see Demetrius Johnson in prime form before you never see him again. This is one of those guys, one of the talents that don't come around very often. And I think as much shine as Demetrius Johnson never, shine and respect that Demetrius Johnson I don't think ever really got for the accolades that he really has in his career, I still think this is one of those things that you have to watch this man fight. It's just a joy. It's a gem. And I think we're really going to be sad when we never have the ability to watch him compete again. So definitely make sure to watch. And I will be going with Demetrius Johnson by second round KO.
Okay, Mark.
All right, close odds, as you may expect. Demetrius is the favorite. He's minus 155. Moraes is plus 125 as the underdog. 5-inch height and 3-inch reach advantage on the Moraes side, as we know by now. We're going to settle this trilogy here. We're going to settle who the true 135-pound champ of OneFC is, and we may be seeing Demetrius for the very last time, as Omar said. So make sure you appreciate it when you're watching him in this fight, because he's inarguably, one of the greatest that we've ever seen. And honestly, if you are not aware, if you have not been watching this since it's over in one, this rivalry is one of the greatest that we've ever seen. If this trilogy was happening in the UFC, it would be enormous. You have the monster knee from Adriano Moraes to finish DJ, a guy who's never been finished, put him out. Then you have one of my favorite finishing sequences that I've ever seen in my life from DJ to put Adriano out in the second fight. And now you have two guys who are really evenly matched and who present big problems for each other that the other has to solve, trying to settle this thing. Not to mention the story of Mighty Mouse and the size disadvantage that he has to overcome. So it's a special trilogy. I'm sure this third fight's going to live up to the other two, and I can't wait for it. As for picking it, it's fucking hard. We saw even in the second fight that Moraes is absolutely DJ's equal in there. If you remember, he was up 2 rounds early in that fight before DJ kind of chose to go into zombie mode and just started maniacally walking forward on Moraes to close the distance and change the fight, and that worked. But can he do it again? Can he do it again now that Moraes knows he has to prevent it? On the flip, can Moraes finish DJ without catching him on the ground in a spot that maybe he wasn't totally comfortable with yet, rule set-wise? There's a lot of questions, even though we've seen them fight twice already, and I'm torn on where I want to go. Part of me tells me that the size of Moraes is just too much, that DJ kind of figured out a perfect game plan last fight and overcame it, but that having to do that again is a really tough ask. Other part of me tells me that DJ is just better, that his in-fight intelligence and ability to adjust on the fly is just going to allow him to find a way to overcome whatever's not working in there. And I don't know. I'm literally flipping a coin, which I'm going to do again in the UFC main event later on. There's some tough fights to call this weekend. I'm going to go with DJ again. Maybe it's just because that's how I want this to go, but I'm going to go DJ again and say that he somehow pulls this off, rides off into the sunset. And honestly, I forgot this, even though you brought it up to me. I like hearing that this fight's at elevation, which I did not know until earlier on this podcast. So that makes me a little more comfortable with the DJ pick. I trust him more to deal with an elevation issue just because of how enormous Moraes is and the fact that I can't believe he fights at this class. So I'm going to say DJ gets it done. I'm going to say maybe we see the cards for once in this trilogy. DJ, UD.
Yeah, I'm also going to ride with the great and mighty and powerful Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Yeah, I agree with Mark. I think it's going to go the distance because, DJ's flying knee of Moraes is the first time that Moraes has ever been finished. So I'm a believer a little bit in the law of averages. So I think things are going to average out a little bit. I think this fight is going to go to the scorecards. We're going to see Demetrius Johnson be more active, land more damage, and he's going to walk away with the win, with the belt, and with an incredible legacy if this is his last fight. Can't wait. Okay, let's march on to our final segment of our preview portion of this week's show. Man, oh man, so much MMA this weekend. And we're also getting a tremendous stacked pay-per-view card from the UFC. UFC 288 Sterling versus Cejudo. So many fucking great matchups on this card. My mind is blown. Before we talk about the handful of fights that we are going to talk about, any other fights or fighters that you guys want to quickly spotlight for our listeners and viewers?
I would just quickly shout out Chaos Williams. We're not going to preview his fight. He's fighting a debuting fighter in Rolando Bedoya. But he comes in pretty well regarded as well. So definitely one to watch. I guess my assumption is that we see a Chaos Williams knockout, which is always fun to see, but you never know. So tune into that one.
Yeah. Also, Ugly Man Holmes is on this card. He's 1-2 in the UFC so far, so one would imagine he probably needs to make a good counting of himself in this fight.
I like Ugly Man Holmes.
Yep. Phil Hawes is also returning on this card as well. Another one who probably wants to make a good accounting of himself as well. He's in a little bit more trouble, having dropped 3 out of his last 4 fights.
Dude, kind of a quick return for having your leg torn apart, huh?
Yeah.
When was that?
That was October.
Also, he hasn't lost 3 out of 4. He's lost 2 out of 3. Take it easy.
What?
Okay, let's go.
He lost against Chris Curtis.
Yep.
Oh, grappling. My bad. Well, can't fucking win a grappling match either. But yeah. So definitely 2 guys that I would look out for. Also, Zalgas Zumagulov is on this card as well, which I'm just now realizing.
Yeah.
Oh shit, he's even in worse shape. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I just want to say real quick to anybody who's watching this as a clip, I apologize. This is towards the end of our recording session. I mean, you guys can agree. Towards the beginning of the night, I was back, and my body is just like yelling at me.
Coffee's running out.
My body
Caffeine's
is yelling at
me. Dude, you can bail if you would like us to handle this segment on our own.
If it gets to that level point, maybe. So again, anybody who's watching and does not know, I have a 3-week-old infant living in my house right now.
Which means he hasn't slept for 3 weeks.
Yeah, man. Okay. Let's fucking do this. I need some cocaine. First fight we're going to do here in the women's strawweight division. Marina Rodriguez taking on Virna Jandiroba. Let's fucking go. Out the gate. This is like a main event fight on any fight night card.
This fight.
Marina Rodriguez, the 36-year-old out of Brazil. Birthday's coming up. End of the month. Turning 37. How about that? 16-2 with 2 draws, 6 knockouts on her record. Only ever been finished once. And that finish came just recently, this past November, against Amanda Lemos. She will be standing across Virna Jandiroba, the 34-year-old out of Brazil as well. 18-3 as a pro with 13 submission victories on her record. Most recently, a UD over my girl, Angela Hill. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Rodriguez versus Jandiroba.
All right, pretty tight odds here. Marina is minus 135 as the favorite. Jandiroba is plus 110 as the underdog. 3 inches of height and 1 inch of reach on the Marina side, and I am a believer in Marina Rodriguez. Her last fight with Lemos, I don't think was her best, but I'm not going to stop believing as of yet. We know Jandiroba's game. She's going to want to control Rodriguez on the mat, and I just don't think she can do that to Marina Rodriguez. Her 3 UFC losses have come against, this is Jandiroba, have come against the 3 girls that she's fought who can grapple. Carla Esparza, Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas. And Rodriguez fits that bill to me. She's already shown that she can survive the grappling of a Mackenzie Dern, and I don't think it's different here, which means we're going to see time on the feet. And I just think that Rodriguez is going to be racking up points when we're standing. If it ends up going the other way, I will definitely start to be concerned about Marina. But right now I still believe in her game and that she is high level in this division. I think she lands more often, with more variety, with more power, and takes a clear UD.
Omar.
Yeah, man, I like Virna Jandiroba, for being honest, man. I think she's a very good fighter. But I do like Marina's hands a little bit better. I trust them a little bit better. And I think if obviously we have to put one against the other here, I think Marina is just going to overall be a little bit crisper when it comes to the boxing. Jandiroba really shines when she's able to get it down to the ground, or when she's able to catch you with some of those big winging hooks that she likes to throw. But Marina's boxing, I think, is just a little too slick. As long as she keeps her wits about her, not going to the ground and getting taken down, which has happened to her before, I don't think we'll have that issue. So I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez by unanimous decision.
We are unanimous with this one, boys. I'm a fan of Marina, and look, I think Virna, she's a scary broad, man. She's like intense, but I believe in the kickboxing skills of Rodriguez, and I will take her by unanimous decision.
Nice.
Moving on, we have Kennedy Cejudo taking on Devin Clark. Cejudo, the 30-year-old out of Dallas, Texas, 11-3, 8 knockouts, coming off back-to-back wins over Carl Roberson and Ian Cutelaba. He'll be standing across from Devin the Brown Bear Clark out of South Dakota, 14-7 as a pro, 4 knockouts, 9 decision victories, coming off of a UD over Da Woon Jung. I'll go first this time. I've been leading the picks for quite some time now, to my surprise.
Because you get to hear our takes and then decide
I always go
what you
last.
Do?
I never change my take because of your guys' takes, but
okay,
I might as well go first in case you guys want to do that. I keep fucking picking right. Not all the time, but
I think you've heard Mark and I both talk about Devin Clark, his ass. So
yeah, I'm not high on Devin Clark, and I haven't been. And Cejudo has really made me a fan, man, especially after that last performance against Cutelaba. So I'm going to go with Cejudo in this fight as well. I'm going to say round 2 knockout over Devin Clark. Omar?
Yeah, dude. Cejudo is one of those guys that I really like because he works for everything that he's gotten, right? He's not really a ton of flash, but when he gets in there, man, he's there to scrap and he takes it seriously. And you can see he's one of these guys that's not naturally talented, and he's had to really put in the work and the effort to get to where he's at, and it's showing. I think he's really starting to see the fruits of his labor here, especially in his last 2 performances. They've been really fantastic. I even think the Dao Junwang, I think he was doing well until he got fucked up in the short amount of time that fight was. But Devin Clark on the opposite hand is, for me, the definition of a 50-50 fighter, man. Like the dude, I could literally flip a coin and I would trust the coin to tell me exactly how this fight is going to go, at least when it comes to Devin Clark. Devin Clark won his last fight against Dao Jung, who Nzechukwu lost against. But that to me just means that Devin Clark is due for a loss. And so for that, I'm going to go with Nzechukwu by first round KO.
Okay, Mark.
Cejudo is the favorite, minus 195. Clark is plus 165 as the underdog. 5 inches of height and 8 inches of reach on the Cejudo side, which is enormous. I was impressed by Devin Clark in his last one. Every time I write this man off, he bounces back, but at the same time, he always loses again after the bounce back, so we'll see if that pattern continues. And as much as I think it is possible that Devin Clark could out-wrestle Kennedy, I think that the sheer size of Cejudo will help him a bit in that department. And he's honestly been improving his wrestling fight by fight also. So, I just think that the reach and the size lets him put something on Devin Clark's chin. We know Devin Clark's weakness is that he gets hit clean too often. And this size difference to me is just screaming that he's going to get jabbed or kneed or clipped with something huge. And I just don't think he can control Cejudo enough to nullify that possibility all fight long. So give me Kennedy Cejudo, round 2 TKO.
Nice.
Love it. R.I.P. Devin Clark.
Okay, lightweight division. Drew Dober taking on Matt Frivola. Drew Dober, the 34-year-old out of Omaha, Nebraska. His record stands at 26-11 with 1 no contest, 13 knockouts. And he's riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend, finishing by knockout all 3 opponents, Terrence McKinney, Rafael Alves, and Bobby Green. Did Bobby Green, isn't he changing his name to just King?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Drew Dober will be standing across from Matt the Steamroller Frivola. He is the 32-year-old out of Huntington, New York. Let's go, Strong Island. 10-3 as a pro, also 1 draw, 3 knockouts, 3 subs, 4 decisions. He is riding consecutive wins coming into this fight. Omar, start us off this time. Priaulx taking on Dober.
I think this is actually quite an amazing fight. I'm a big fan of Dober, though, man. I don't think I can stray away from that allegiance right now. I like Matt Priaulx. I think he's fun. I've seen him fight in person. I've met him on the plane. I met him off the plane. Cool dude. Follow him on Twitter and all that. Fun guy. I would probably be picking him for majority of the fights, but not against Drew Dober. I can't do it. Drew Dober is my boy. I've been rooting for Drew Dober for too long to just jump off that cage right now for a Matt Priaulx. So I'm gonna go with Drew Dober here by unanimous decision. I have seen Matt Priaulx get better, but I think Drew Dober is just gonna be a step above.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm a Drew Dober guy. I mean, this guy has turned me into more and more of a fan of his. I love watching him fight. He is a guy on the roster who is sort of must-see because the guy fucking bangs. Every fight of his, anybody could get knocked out at any moment, him included, the way that he fights. But he has a fucking great chin. He has great power. And he's down to fight whoever, man. And I think they should push him more, man. I think he's marketable as hell. And I'm going to take Drew Dober once again by knockout. And I think he's going to get a lot of attention with a 4-fight win streak, all coming by way of knockout. I think he's finding a new gear in this part of his career. So I'm going to go with Dober. I'll say round 1 knockout. I'll say end of round 1. He lights up Priaulx like a fucking Christmas tree. Okay, Mark, finish this one up.
So Dober's favored. He's minus 220. Priaulx is plus 175. I'm in a similar boat of you guys. I will pick Drew Dober against maybe any non-ranked lightweight that there is. I mean, that's probably not 100% true. I'd have to think of who's out there. But, like, the point is I love and believe in the game of Drew Dober. He can wrestle. He's got a chin. He's a fucking dog. And he puts on a friggin' show with his striking, his timing, his angles, the adjustments he makes in fight, the way he goes to the body, obviously the power. It's just I enjoy the whole game of Drew Dober. And I know, kind of as you guys alluded to, I know Matt Priaulx has made advancements. In the past, he was kind of simply known as a wrestler. He's been flatlining some dudes recently, so you know, he's showing more to his game. But I think in this fight, if I'm in his corner, I'm kind of pushing him to go back to that wrestling because as explosive as he can be and as powerful as his hands are, I just think he's outgunned on the feet. I think the technique is just on a different level for Drew Dober, and I think that's what this fight's going to come down to because I can't see Drew Dober getting taken down much. I don't think he can be out-wrestled here enough to nullify that. So I think he's going to be landing on the feet all fight long. I don't know if I am going to say knockout. I feel like I may end up regretting that. For some reason, I'm seeing this go to the cards, so I'm going to say Drew Dober UD.
Okay.
Dude, Drew Dober only loses to the best of the best. It's hard to pick against him, man.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. In the featherweight division, I'm so excited for this fight. We have the return of Kron Gracie taking on Charles Jourdain. Is it Jourdain or Jourdain?
Jourdain.
Thank you. Kron Gracie, the 34-year-old Gracie family heir, obviously out of Brazil. He is 5-1 as a professional mixed martial artist. I don't know what his record is in terms of jiu-jitsu. I'm sure it's ridiculous. Like I said, he's a Gracie.
A lot and a little.
Amazing. Is what you say?
A lot and a little.
Okay. Like a lot of wins and a little losses?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. He came into MMA with a lot of buzz in 2014. He won his first 5 fights, by the way, of course, all by submission. And then he ran into a great veteran named Cub Swanson, who kind of schooled him, didn't he? Didn't Cub worked him?
I believe. Yeah,
yes, he did.
Yeah, he like endured a beating. He obviously made it to the bell, but yeah.
That was Tampa.
And do you guys know, was there an injury? Is there a reason why he hasn't fought since 2019?
I don't know. I tried to look it up. I didn't find shit.
Yeah.
I feel like a part of it was the pandemic at first, and who knows kind of what escalated from there. But yeah, dude, he took that ass beating from Cub and like went completely radio silent. Like even the announcement of this fight for me was like, what the hell is this coming from?
Interesting match.
Yeah.
Interesting match. Okay. So he'll be standing across from Charles Jourdain, Air Jourdain, the 27-year-old out of Quebec, Canada. He is 13-6 with 1 draw, 8 knockouts with 4 submission wins. Only one of his wins coming by way of decision. Man, oh man. Real quick, he is coming off of back-to-back losses, so he's looking to get back in the win column as well, dropping decisions to Shane Burgos and Nathaniel Wood, most recently back in September. Man, I'm excited for the return of Kron Gracie. I'll go first here, because I want to see how far Kron can go in MMA. But man, I do not want it to be at the expense of Charles Jourdain. I'm on the Jourdain train, man. I love his striking. He's one of the more exciting new up and coming featherweights. This is a tough fight to pick, though. It really is, just because of the sheer, high level expertise and specialization of Kron Gracie. The question is, will he be able to absorb some strikes? It's tough to say, man. It's tough to say. I'm going to roll with Charles Jourdain here. I think Kron is going to have taken too much time off. I think there's going to be a little bit of rust. And it's tough, man. I'm so on the fence with this one because it's just such a big question mark. But I'll say Jourdain by UD as well. Mark, why don't you go?
I have only just realized that Air Jourdain is a play on Air Jordan because I'm an idiot.
For fuck's sake.
And clap it up for that man because that's fucking great.
Oh my God. We clapped it up for him 5 years ago.
Yeah, I never even processed it.
I never processed that either.
Oh
wow! Really? There we
Air
go.
Jourdain.
The two sports fucking guys here didn't get Air Jourdain. Look at this nonsense.
Oh man.
Shame.
Well, Air Jourdain is the favorite in this fight. He is minus 180. Kron Gracie is the dog at plus 150. I know that Cub Swanson showed the way to beat Kron Gracie. I know he hasn't fought in almost 4 years. Again, I'm not sure what the story was there. I think he's going to tap Charles Jourdain.
Yeah.
I think Jourdain is a bit too wild and a bit too willing to fight anywhere in any way. I don't think he's built to fight safe and fight a smart fight, and I think he's going to leave an opening that costs him, and Kron Gracie only needs one. He showed that against Alex Caceres. I think he shows it again here. I think it's some type of scramble where he rolls into something or he grabs it back out of nowhere or something to that effect, and then you're like, oh, fuck, Charles Jourdain's in trouble. Oh, fuck, Charles Jourdain is tapping. That type of a deal. So I will go Kron Gracie, round 1 sub.
Oh, yeah. I could easily see that too, man. Oh, my God. Okay, Omar, go.
It's such a hard pick, man, because Kron Gracie has nothing but submission. And I think that's really what the problem is do I really believe that Charles Jourdain can't keep Kron Gracie from taking him down? Because the reality is he can fight outside that entire fight, and Kron probably won't have a real answer for him. And I'm gonna counter. I think he can fight smart. I think he will fight measured. I think he'd be dumb to not see how. I don't really like using the word easy, but how much less problems there will be on the feet than if he were to try to take it or be sloppy enough to get taken down to the ground. I'd have to imagine, especially Jourdain having dropped 2, I don't think he's trying to drop another one to a dude who's not even on his level when it comes to striking. So
good point about the dropping 2.
Yeah, I got to think that he's going to be fighting this one a little bit smarter. I'm going to go with Jourdain by unanimous decision.
Man, I just don't want to live in a world where Charles Jourdain is like on a long losing streak and is out of the UFC. Because I want to see this guy fucking rise up in featherweight rankings. Okay, sticking with the featherweights. Now let's move on to Movsar Evloev taking on Diego Lopez. So Evloev.
Such a fucking buzzkill.
Crazy, man.
I was so looking forward to Evloev and Bryce Mitchell. I really was.
Yeah, this is the second time they've tried to do the Bryce Mitchell fight with this kid.
Pain.
We're going to have to talk about that a little bit. Okay, Evloev, the 29-year-old out of Russia, undefeated, 16-0, 9 decision wins. Most recently defeating Dan Ige by UD back in June. He is 6-0 in the UFC, of course. Diego Lopez is his replacement opponent, 28 years old, out of Brazil. He's coming in, making his UFC debut. He did appear on Dana White's Contender Series back in August of 2021, a losing effort to Joe Anderson Brito. But recently he has been back in the win column with back-to-back wins in Fury and in Lux Fight League back in November. Mark, why don't you lead us off here? Give us your take of Evloev versus Lopez.
Evloev is a bit of a favorite. He is minus 600. Diego Lopez is plus 450 as the dog. 4 inches of height on the Lopez side. Granted, only about 1 week of notice. And, yeah, this one sucks. As I said, I was really pumped to see Evloev and Bryce Mitchell go at it. Unfortunately, we get robbed of that. Lopez steps in on very short notice here. I don't know him. I didn't see his Contender Series fight. You look at his record, he actually seems like a quality fighter, so maybe he doesn't get absolutely run over here, but Movsar Evloev is the real fucking deal, and Diego Lopez is not the guy to change that, and I think Evloev may actually get his elusive first UFC finish here, so give me Movsar Evloev by round 3 TKO once Lopez tires a bit on the short notice here from all the from the ringer that Evloev is going to put him through.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think Evloev is easily going to get the victory here. I will say, though, that due to the quality of Lopez's apparent skills, according to his record, I'm going to say that he goes the distance and Evloev cruises to an easy unanimous decision victory. Omar.
There's too much positive for me for Movsar to pick against him at this point. There's a lot working against Diego Lopez, and his resume shows a lot of holes, a lot of ability for guys who are just not that good to be able to beat him one way or another. And I don't think you can have that kind of discrepancy against a guy like Movsar Evloev. I think he does it, man. I think he finishes him. I think he does it in the 3rd round. Submission.
Okay, moving on. Women's strawweight or flyweight? Strawweight. Thank you. Jessica Andrade taking on Yan Xiaonan. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Andrade needing little introduction. 31 years old out of Brazil. 24-10 as a pro. 9 knockouts. 8 submission victories. Most recently, a submission loss at the hands of Aaron Blanchfield back in this past February. Yan Xiaonan, the 33-year-old out of China, 16-3 with 1 no contest, 7 knockouts, and 9 decision victories coming off of a majority decision win over Mackenzie Dern. A bit of a classic back in October. Omar, lead us off here. Give us your take and your pick of Yan Xiaonan taking on Jessica Andrade.
I think the height and the distance is going to be probably one of the biggest factors in this fight. Yan Xiaonan has... she's 5'5", and Jessica Andrade is like, they say 5'1", but something tells me that girl was probably wearing like sneakers when they measured her potentially.
Yeah, you met her.
She's tiny, dog, tiny. But if there's one thing I can tell you for a fact about Jessica Andrade, that is the most solid woman I have ever put my hands on. I feel like I could push fucking Jessica Andrade and that girl would go nowhere.
Just clip that one sentence.
Yeah, that was a good one. Jessica Andrade is a beast, though, man. She's an absolute animal. She's got that championship mentality. She's gotten the championship experience. She's held the belt before. And we need to be real about the situation. This is a big, big spot for Yan Xiaonan. This is a moment for her to really break through. She's had some good performances recently. She's got some nice names on her record now, having recently beaten Mackenzie Dern. She's got Claudia Gadelia on there, which is not a bad name to have on there. Cole Kawich, but that was kind of towards the end there, so that one doesn't hold as much weight. But she does have Angela Hill on there. She's legit, man, and she's another one that works for what she's got. She's not flashy. She's a very, very gritty fighter. Fights out of Team Alpha Male, so she's got that tenacity when it comes to the continuously like go kind of style. Jessica Andrade is going to be a bruiser in here, man. She's going to be looking to put hands on her. She's going to be looking to try to take the things down when she can. I think she's going to have problems finishing Yan Xiaonan, but I do think that she will find success in there. I think it might take her around to do it, but I think she finds success in there. I'm going to go with Jessica Andrade by unanimous decision.
I, too, am going with Andrade by UD. I think this is going to be one of those performances from Andrade. I feel like she is going to have a performance where she shines, and she's going to, again, have sort of an underrated hand speed against Yan, and I see her getting out of there with a unanimous decision. I think Yan is durable enough to withstand the power of Andrade, so I'm going to say Andrade UD. Mark?
So Andrade is favored. She's minus 200. Yan is plus 165. As Omar mentioned, 4 inches of height and 1 inch of reach on the Yan side of things. I know Jessica got somewhat wrecked in her last fight against Erin Blanchfield to the shock of mostly everyone. Not that she lost, but the way that she lost. But I don't think that there's any reason to write her off here. And I actually think she's going to have a bit of a chip on her shoulder because of that loss. She's back down at 115 pounds. She's fighting an opponent who prefers to strike more than anything else. And yes, she is at a size disadvantage, but she often is. The reach isn't anything noteworthy, and I still think she can win these exchanges. I think she pressures. I think she makes Yan back up a lot more than she wants to. I think she lands harder, has the bigger moments, and takes the cards. And she could even mix in some wrestling in this one potentially if she wanted to. So I think this is her fight. I'm going to say Andrade UD.
Beauty.
Jessica Andrade has never missed weight before. I don't know why I thought she did. But 125, 135, she's always... Issues? No. I guess not. I guess maybe I assumed because of a lot of the back and forth, I assumed there might have been some weight issues there. But to be honest, no, not at all.
Okay, no, she's just a girl who wants to scrap with all different people.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, co-main event time.
Oh, boy, here we
go. UFC 288. One of the harder fights that I have had to think about picking. We have Belal, remember the name, Muhammad, taking on Gilbert Durinho Burns in the welterweight division. A very consequential fight at 170 pounds. Belal, remember the name, the 34-year-old out of Chicago, Illinois. His record stands at 22 victories with 3 defeats and 1 no contest, 16 of his wins coming by way of decision. He has been on an absolute tear. I don't have his full record in front of me. He is on quite a win streak since his no contest to Leon Edwards back in March of 2021. He's on a 4-fight win streak, defeating Demi Maia, Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque, and Sean Brady, finishing Sean Brady in the second round. Gilbert Burns on a tear of his own. Durinho is the 36-year-old out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. His record stands at 22 victories with 5 defeats, 6 knockouts with 9 submission victories. He's on a 2-fight win streak, defeating Neil Magny by triangle choke and Jorge Masvidal. And what's really impressing me about Gilbert Burns is his frequency as of right now. He fought in January. He said, "Put me back in, coach." He fought in April, and now it is May, and he's fighting. So my man wants to be active. He wants to collect checks this calendar year, and he's looking great, man. He's looking really, really great. Without knowing what the odds are for Mark right now, I'm going to guess that these odds are very, very close. To me, this fight feels like a pick'em. These guys seem to be very evenly matched, skill for skill. They're the same height, very similar build and stature, but they're both very solid welterweights who are on a little bit of the shorter end of 170-pound division. That being said, it's not that I'm flipping a coin, but I just feel more confident in Gilbert Burns right now. I love this guy's motor in the fight. He has such a burning spirit of competition and a will to win. Obviously his ground game, his pedigree is world class. Now, and that tends to be a strong suit for Belal, but against a guy like Burns, I think that's really going to negate Belal's wrestling. So I'm going to go Gilbert Burns by unanimous decision. Who would like to go?
Fuck.
You have to call it.
I'll go real quick because I have this idea about bro, like it's this fight is so hard to pick because Gilbert's one of these guys, man, that like he's really good, really good. The ground game is in this point in the UFC especially is probably very top tier, top maybe 1 or 5 across the entire organization. But Belal, whatever the hell Belal has been taking since the pandemic has been some shit because the man has been fighting, I think, on a different gear. His forward pressure has been crazy. His strikes have been lengthy and rangy and consistent and straight. The technique has been great. The mix in with the ground game has been great. The ground control has been really good. And Gilbert Burns is an animal, but like it really begs the question: who do you think has the best ability to win this fight? And as much as I want Belal to win this fight, it's just really hard for me to pick against Gilbert Burns right now. He's got the 2 losses to Hamzat and to Kamaru, but the Kamaru one, he was doing pretty well up until he wasn't. And the Hamzat one was a back and forth banger that really wasn't fought as smartly as it could have been fought. But I think he knew that. I don't think it's lost on them that was something that he could have made improvements on going forward. But the Belal one is too important. This is the one that's going to get him to the belt. This is the one that's going to get Gilbert really what he wants. So I'll go with Gilbert Burns by split decision.
Wow. Okay, Mark.
So you are right. The odds are very close. Gilbert Burns is a slight favorite at -125. Belal is the slightest of underdogs at +105.
Wow.
1 inch height and 1 inch reach for Belal, so not much to note there. Pretty much the same size. This fight was made on pretty short notice for both fighters. But on one hand, you have Gilbert Burns coming in fresh as a daisy, dying to fight on this card. And on the other, you have Belal Muhammad, who just recently finished observing Ramadan and was kind of vocal about not wanting to fight so soon after it. But he was convinced to take the fight. He was farther from weight than Gilbert. And on top of all that, Gilbert somehow convinced him in the UFC to make this a 5-round fight. So in normal circumstances, I think I would have been really 50-50 on this fight. Maybe still landed on Burns in the end, but with all of what I just said factored in, I think it's Gilbert Burns' time to shine. I really do think that the matchup favors him here. All of Belal's wins on this run that he's on have come against guys who he can expose in a certain area, like Damian Maia, wrestling. Stephen Thompson, wrestling. Vicente Luque, wrestling. Sean Brady, striking. Gilbert Burns ain't that guy. You are not exposing Gilbert Burns anywhere because he's not weak anywhere. Like, Belal has had a lot of success on the feet because most guys are so conscious of being taken down that they leave themselves open for him to land. And Gilbert isn't going to give a shit. He's happy to work his jiu-jitsu. So he's going to go for it on the feet. I expect him to look comfortable there the same way he did against Chimaev, honestly. And on the feet, he's the much better striker. He has more variety, better setups than Belal, better counters than Belal, more power, natural power. It's all in his favor there to me. And not to mention his best friend, Vicente Luque, has fought Belal twice now. So I'm sure he can offer plenty of insight on little things that he picked up from fighting Belal, tendencies, things like that. And, of course, Belal beat Luque in the last one. But give me a guy in Gilbert who's comfortable and even dangerous on the mat if Belal takes him down, and who I believe is a level above in the striking, plus the fighter who seems to be more ready for this fight. I will roll with him. I'll say he makes a statement as well. I think he's going to put Belal out as this fight goes on. I'm going to say Gilbert Burns, 4th round TKO. Wow. And you would have to imagine that sets him up for a title shot against the winner of Brian Colby.
Like, as much as I think Burns is going to win, Barrow, I really want Belal to win. Like, I really do.
All right, boys, it is main event time. Here we go.
We all said Burns there?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm surprised. That's why I wanted to go first.
I am too. All right.
I want to pick Belal so bad, but this is one of those.
I'm a Gilbert guy now.
Now.
I used to be like, oh, he's cool. But now I'm like, he's my guy.
Beat Street Jesus. Let's go on the train.
I tried to talk up why he was the toughest matchup that Usman ever faced.
Yeah, man.
Didn't go so well, but
nope.
Nah, it was probably the Chimaev fight that made me really into a Burns guy.
Chimaev fight was a great showing for both.
Great fight, man. Okay. It's almost 1 a.m. Okay? Okay.
Yep.
Let's fucking do this.
We haven't been doing this for 3 hours or anything.
Let's see. Main event, UFC 288. We have Aljamain Sterling defending his UFC Bantamweight Championship against the returning, unretiring Henry Cejudo. Now, Sherdog says that his nickname is the Messenger.
Yeah. Always.
Has it been?
Yeah.
I do not recall him being.
Granted, they may not announce that anymore because now do they announce Triple C?
Maybe
when he gets announced. I don't even know.
I don't know.
All right, let me set this up real quick. So Aljamain Sterling, Funk Master, the 33-year-old out of Cortland, New York, 22-3, 8 submission victories, 10 decision victories. He's on quite a tear in his career, man. He has found another level. He is on an 8-fight win streak, including taking the title from Petr Yan, defending it also against TJ Dillashaw. And across from him is going to be Henry Cejudo, the 36-year-old out of Phoenix, Arizona, former Olympic gold medalist, former UFC flyweight champion, and former UFC bantamweight champion. 16-2 as a pro in MMA, 8 knockouts on his record and 8 decisions as well. He himself is on a 3-fight win streak, but then he retired sort of after he defended the bantamweight title against Dominic Cruz back in May of 2020. So we're talking a nearly 3-year layoff for Mr. Triple C.
Almost exactly.
Almost exactly. Yeah, almost to the day. I will go first. This is a tough fight. I don't know. I think Aljo is probably going to be favorited just because of the layoff of Cejudo. I'm guessing. I could be wrong. But Cejudo makes it interesting. I feel like Cejudo, in some ways, it's like he, not that he's underrated, but like he surprises guys. Like when he knocked out Dillashaw, it was like, holy shit. Once he got the proverbial monkey off his back by defeating Mighty Mouse Johnson, he definitely found another level, I think. And then he knocked out Marlon Moraes, and then he knocked out Dominic Cruz. Similar to my Kron Gracie pick, my Kron Gracie non-pick, I'm going to say 3 years is just too long of a layoff to come back against a guy at such a high level as Aljamain Sterling. I mean, this fight really is a clash of titans here. That being said, Cejudo is obviously a very tough, very durable guy. He's never been submitted. So I'm going to say that Aljamain Sterling is going to, should I say UD or split? I'll say unanimous decision for Aljamain Sterling and Still.
the odds on this fight have got to be like right there. I mean,
you think they're close?
I kind of do, man. I mean, the reality is that Aljamain Sterling doesn't really fucking lose. That's just a fact.
Would you like to know?
I'm going to guess. Let me guess this time.
Yeah, let's get you guess first, Mike.
I'm going to say Aljo is like a 1. I'm going to say he's like a 200 favorite. Wow. And I'm going to say that.
That's wild, bro.
No? I'll say that Cejudo's like minus 150. I don't know. I'm not a bettor.
I would say Aljo at best is minus 150. He's probably like maybe like minus maybe 135, 140. And I would think Cejudo is maybe plus 125, maybe plus 120.
All right, let's hear it. There.
It's not a bad guess. It's even closer than that.
Oh, wow.
And the favorite is Henry Cejudo. Really, they're like co-fit. It's neither man is plus money. Cejudo is minus 115, and Aljo is minus 105. So basically, you're paying the vig to bet either one of them.
Yeah, wow.
It's pretty much a pick'em's fight.
It's a crazy situation you really got going on here, man. Because Aljo again doesn't lose. He's got this ridiculous ass reach when it comes to this, this weight class, and a guy as short as Henry is. Henry's 5'4". Aljamain is 5'7". We've seen them stand next to each other. Like Henry Cejudo is like looking straight the fuck up at Aljamain Sterling. And Aljamain Sterling is one of these guys that knows how to use his length in the cage. And the wrestling pedigree is all well and good until you get punched in the face. And you can do that in MMA, and it makes for significant changes in how people approach things. If we were on an Olympic mat, I'd be picking Henry Cejudo to win that wrestling match every day of the week, frankly. But that's not what this is. This is going to be everywhere. And I think Aljamain has the length to strike. I think he's got the fight IQ that's required for such a high-level fight against a chess master, basically like Henry Cejudo, because we've seen Cejudo adjust on the fly. But I just think Aljamain Sterling brings a lot of tools to the table here. And I think a lot of his tools match up well with Henry Cejudo's positives, like his wrestling, his dynamic movement, his ground control. He's not really a lay and pray kind of guy, nor do I think he could do that to Aljamain Sterling, even if he was. And I just don't see. I just see more avenues for Sterling. As thin as those avenues are, I just see more of them than I do for Cejudo. But the reality is, man, this fight could go in any fucking direction at any given time because both of these guys are the elite of the elite. But I am going to go with Aljamain Sterling, and I am going with split decision and still.
Okay, Mark, bring it on.
I thought you were both going to take Cejudo, and you both took Aljo.
Dude, I've been going back and forth for like the week. It has been the worst.
I have to. All right, so I gave you the odds, basically a pick'em fight. Aljo's 3 inches taller. The reach is a mess because Henry Cejudo has different reaches depending where you look. Some places have his reach at 67.5, which means it's only 3.5 inches less than Aljo. Some places have his reach at 64, which means it's 7 inches less than Aljo. So I don't know how we have 64 and 67.5 for Henry's reach, but if it's 7, that's a fucking lot. So, yeah, and as Omar said, in all these clips, he looks like the significantly smaller human. But massive fight here. Aljo undefeated in 8 in a row. Cejudo returning, trying to claim the belt he never lost. And then I'm guessing try to push for a title shot at featherweight so he can have 3 belts, as he has alluded to. It's tough. I could talk myself into either guy winning. I'm about as 50-50 as it gets. I have been flip-flopping. I think it's one of 2 scenarios. One is that the length of Aljo is too much. He eventually gets Henry's back and chokes him out. The other one is that he can't keep Henry off him because his striking is just not good enough, and that he can't take Henry down, and he ends up kind of getting busted up inside. Like, I could see it either of those ways. If it goes to the cards, for some reason, I don't think it's Aljo on the cards. I don't know. I mean, I even take that back. I could see this fight go 5 different ways for both fucking guys. But we know the MMA mind of Cejudo. He probably has 10 avenues planned out that he sees himself capable of winning this fight in. I'm sure he's got a plan A through plan Z. The dude is fucking brilliant, as you see in the coaching, how much he's helped guys. If you're Team Henry here, you would like to think that Aljo's striking is not dangerous enough to deter Henry, despite the length, and that Henry can get inside, throw hands all fight, and not be overly concerned about a takedown because he's Henry fucking Cejudo. But Henry's never fought anyone close to this size. The only one is Dom, and Dom was returning from like 4 years of inactivity. So there's really nothing to base this on how he will do with a guy who is so much bigger than him. On the other side, if you're in the Aljo camp, you'd like to think he can use that length to keep Henry away, like he's done to others, like Petr Yan, and that even though straight takedowns may not be there, that the length of Aljo, the craftiness of Aljo, the ability to cling in certain situations allows him to take a back or something like that, and that maybe Cejudo's in trouble once it hits that spot. But then you look at Aljo's resume, and you realize that on this whole run, he hasn't really beaten anyone with a massive grappling pedigree in any way. Nothing close to a Henry Cejudo. So are we sure his grappling stacks up? I mean, TJ was going to be interesting, but we didn't even get to see it. So I don't know. If his grappling does stack up and he can like backpack a Henry Cejudo, we may be having to admit that we're looking at an all-time grappler here in Aljamain Sterling. And maybe we are. So I don't know. I didn't even write a pick down prior to this show because I didn't know which way I wanted to go. I feel like when I break it down and analyze it, the answer to me is Cejudo, but for some reason my eyes and the vibe I have is telling me it's going to be Aljo somehow. So I don't know exactly how. Maybe Henry looks to defend a takedown and Aljo kind of just holds on as Henry turns away, and next thing you know, he's on the back and chokes him out.
I love it.
So I will say Aljamain Sterling, round 2, rear naked choke.
So there's one scenario I kind of see coming, now that you've said some of that. There's, because of the height and the reach advantage that Aljo has, there's something about these straight knees up the middle that I think is going to make Henry's face go kaplunk.
Wow.
I'm not betting on it.
Okay.
But goddamn do I see it.
Because I have melted like the Wicked Witch, Mark, will you do the honors and take us out?
We're out. Yeah, that's all she wrote. We're not doing trivia, right?
No.
All right. So, yeah, enjoy your MMA this weekend. We got 3 different events. A lot of good fights, a lot of big fights. Don't miss DJ. Maybe his last one ever. Make sure you catch it. And, yeah, we'll be back next week. We're all going to sleep. It's fucking 1:04 a.m. The commitment.
For those of you that have got long commutes, you got back and you got forward. And this one. Long one this week.
Yeah. All right.
Bye, folks.
Thank you for listening. We are out of here.
Peace.
Peace.